Live from Charlotte Motor Speedway, we welcome race fans one and all to America's home for motorsports and to the longest race on the calendar for the SimSeats RealSimRacing Cup Series. Welcome to RaceSpot TV for tonight's coverage of the SimSeats 300. I'm Nolan Rempel, and I have Ewan O'Leary beside me in the commentary booth tonight, with Hugo Louise operating the cameras trackside for tonight's presentation. Tonight's race is going to be all about endurance. 300 miles, 200 laps around this 1.5 mile speedway. It is, of course, the longest event on the 2021 calendar. So who knows what we have in store for us here tonight as we start to get closer and closer towards the second half of the season. Round number 11 of 30 about to get underway here from the Charlotte Motor Speedway, Ewan.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait for this one. It's going to be the longest night in the entire season, but one of the best. There's no doubt about that. 300 miles here tonight, 200 laps, and just about getting to the end is going to be the most difficult thing about this. And yeah, the racing throughout is going to be absolutely fantastic as well. So absolutely can't wait.
Looking over towards the championships, which continue to kind of kick on off as, you know, positions start to switch back and forth as the night continues to go on. At the top of the point standings, it is, of course, Andrew Freenosh, who is going to get himself up there with himself 3 wins so far on the season. So Freenosh continuing to extend his points gap. Sean Casto sits in second place with Brandon Bowie in third. The top 7 locked into the playoffs on wins alone. And then, of course, you have guys like Nick Silver, Loraya, Rabel, Trudell, Nieto, Cato, Lachinsky, Tice, and Chambliss to round out the remaining spots so far for the playoff spot. But if you take a look at that final spot, Chambliss and George only 3 points separating that bubble spot. So it is still an incredibly tight battle for those precious final spots for the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly, and there's precious points available here tonight throughout all of the season as well. You just need to keep picking up those points, need to keep being consistent and finishing ahead of your rivals, because as you can see there, you know, it's just so close that you can't really afford to have non-point scoring finishes in any of these races. So getting to the end of a race like this is very, very important. Picking up the most amount of points that you possibly can from these kind of races is very, very important as well, because by the time we get to Daytona, the final regular season race of this season, you're really going to need those points, because that race is just going to be a complete lottery for the final regular season round.
Daytona International Speedway, obviously always the big equalizer. It's one of those tracks where you can win no matter how good you are on an oval, sometimes through sheer luck alone. Qualifying underway for the Charlotte Motor Speedway so far. We've got ourselves just about the entirety of the field has set times. Only about 7 cars have yet to set their times for today's race. So with only a minute and a half here, it's looking incredibly tight as well. 5 thousandths of a second separated the top 3 currently: San Diego, Brandon Bowie, and Nicholas Johnston. Brian Chambliss sits back less than a 100th of a second from that third-place driver as well.
I mean, yeah, do we expect anything less these days from the RealSimRacing Cup Series at this point? It's just so close, but we come to expect that these days from the Cup Series. It's just fantastic racing up and down. It sets us in good stead for the race, certainly, with how many cars there are so close together. You know, 14 cars separated by a 10th. And yeah, that's quite ridiculous, really, when you consider how many things that can actually go wrong around here. It's very, very good to see. So yeah, it's going to be a very, very close race indeed. Not long in qualifying here, but you don't really need too much time, to be honest. A couple of laps will do everybody here, and it's just all about nailing it, really, because you don't want to start at the back of the field for a race like this. It can kick off very, very quickly around here, so you want to avoid those kind of calamities very early on, and the best way, of course, to do that is by starting up front.
There is Matt Danson in the 05 machine for the Logitech GLTC Sports team. Now, he, of course, last week's winner at the Circuit of the Americas. A very hard-fought win for Danson as well, and a well-deserved one at that. So the 05 machine is definitely going to get set to continue to promote himself further up. Definitely more of a midfield runner here at this oval, it would seem, tonight. So I have to see what last week's race winner at a road course will be able to do at this 1.5-mile speedway. Qualifying is complete. The clock runs out. Let's take a look now for the SimSeats starting grid for today's 300-mile, 200-lap event. Started on pole position, Sam Nieto for Flat Out Motorsports. Keeping it real's Brandon Bowie sits just 4 thousandths of a second off the pace of the second position. Nicholas Johnston sits in third with Brian Chambliss in fourth. Trey Browning is in the 5th position with Andrew Freenosh in 6th. Joseph Tice is in 7th place with Eric Stanford in 8th. Adam de Blasio and Chris Rabel just 0.06 of a second behind the race leader to round out the top 10 here, Ewan.
Yeah, Yaron Weimaster's in 11th place, just ahead of Bradley Burke in 12th for the number 95. Nick Silver, is in 13th, ahead of Rec McBride in 14th. On the next race, Matt Danson's last week's race winner ahead of Thomas George, who's won here in the past. Liam Sheen is in 17th, ahead of Marius Lesneski, in 18th position for the 03. And moving on a little bit further back as well, it's very, very close between all of these cars. As you can tell, we're barely over a tenth, and we're already down inside the top 20. Michael Larea and Agnel Phillip rounding out your top 20.
That closes out the first half of the field. So started out the second half. Gary Sexton starts in the 21st position with Dominic Howe in the 22nd position. Daniel Eberhardt is in 23rd with Sean Casto in 24th. 25th place holds Jeremy Miller. Ross Cato in 26th. Nicholas Mara in 27th with Dylan C. Jones in 28th. Cody Harris is in 29th with Grant Davis rounded out the top 30.
Tassie Major in 31st in the number 82 alongside Steve Durham in the 10. Then it's David Washington and Michael Kuczynski on the next row of the grid, followed by Matthew Mara and Kyle Kammer, who is in 36th position. There's an awful lot of cars on the grid here today, as you can see. Joe Yates is in 37th ahead of Steve Sower. Kyle Trudell, Eric de Blasio and Trevin Valderrama is in 41st. A massive entry, a great grid, and yeah, very much looking forward to seeing which one comes out on top. But an absolutely packed entry, some great looking cars up and down the grid, and some very, very fast cars up and down the grid as well. It's going to be a very, very close race, but a very chaotic one, a very action-packed one for us as well to enjoy.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be a fantastic event tonight. I mean, you got ourselves 41 cars, just 2 away from the 43-car limit coming into tonight's race. So, 41 cars for 200 laps. So this is only a good sign. Pace car is starting to leave with Pole Sitter San Nieto just behind. So these guys in the back of the field, they're going to have a bit of work to do. They're going to have to really catch up to the pace line just to make sure they can even make it to the start of the race. Because, of course, it can take a little bit to catch up to the tail end of the pace line. We're that far back. Especially when about the 21st place drivers leaving. The pace car is already about to enter the back straightaway coming through turn 2 now. So, as they start to run themselves down now for the first time and the final time today as well before we go green flag racing. What do you think we can expect coming into today's longest race on the season?
I think we could expect a lot of conservative driving early on in the race. I think there's going to be a lot of people aiming to get to the end of this race, or at least get to the very final caution with all of their panels in one piece, all of their panels straight and on the lead lap first of all. But once we get down to that final caution, the tension really is going to ramp up, as it tends to with these races, and then all the gloves are going to be off, all bets are off really, and it's going to be hell for leather for everybody. But making it to that point is half the challenge.
It's going to be all endurance tonight. These drivers are going to have to stay focused. A lot of drivers are going to be very, very tired after this one for sure. The tail of the field still struggling to catch the tail into the pacing line. Just now, middle of the back straightaway. For Sam Nieto, though, he's going to be your control car as the pace car pulls down into pit road. That number 2 Ford Mustang ready to get things underway. You're from America's Home for Racing. Green flag drops. We are underway for 300 miles of racing action. Nieto takes to the green. Time today. He leads lap number 1. A couple of drivers almost made contact in the back. Those were, of course, Andrew Freenage and Trey Browning having a bit of a close call that we ride on board with Eric Stanford trying to fight the outside line around the 18 cars. That outside line can really work well as we see Kyle Trudell just coming off of pit road already. 1 lap down to the race, so that 7 car has a lot of work ahead of him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a long, long race, though. You can get yourself back into it as we see more outside runners. If we see this early on in the race, it's absolutely fantastic news for us a little bit later on. If we do indeed get that kind of top line running here and it does become successful, you're going to see a lot more people trying it, a lot more overtaking happening as well. Just look at this at the moment, though. It's extremely packed up, and the bottom line there just got stacked up on top of each other almost, and that allowed the outside line to really start roaring around. And they're starting to really make some ground now. The number 28 of Johnston was only about 5th a moment ago, but already 3rd just through 1 and 2 on that particular lap. So you've really got to be careful if we are on this inside line. There's so many of them down there that they can fall over each other sometimes.
Speaking of falling over each other, Nicholas Johnston nearly ran over Brandon Bowie as he tried to get down to the inside to cover. And now Johnston's going to try to fight the outside line and make a run for the race lead around San Nieto. That outside line is definitely going to be the place to be when it comes to basketball. Then ball. Look at Nieto, they're really pinching the 28 car right up to the outside wall, nearly putting him into it as well. Nieto clears for the race lead once again down on the bottom side, but Nicholas Johnston, he is not going to let Nieto have a single break.
No, he's absolutely not at the moment, and Brandon Bowie's trying to get involved here as well. Chambliss not too far away either. It's all very, very close at the front of the field, but Nieto did a good job of defending actually there in the first couple of moments. Once you've got that car right behind you there, it is easier to control, but a car roaring up on the outside line with a load of momentum is very, very difficult to hold back, and he did a good job of holding on to his lead.
Great job of holding on to the lead indeed, and now starting to extend on that gap, about a 10.5 of, which when we saw how close qualifying was, that is a lifetime at a track like this for sure. Take a look back further, just a little bit further down, just outside the top 5, that's Brian Chambliss trying to fend off Eric Stanford. Stanford in the 19 car getting the massive head of steam around the outside line. Now going to try to punch his way up into the podium positions by getting by Brandon Bowie. Utilized the outside line perfectly. Again, if you can get the momentum off of those corners, not only do you not use your tires as much, but you can also carry a lot more speed through those corners as well, as you can just see how much speed he has as well on Nicholas Johnston.
We'll see how far he can go with this run now, because Johnston wasn't able to get through on San Nieto after this big run that he got out of turn 2 a few laps ago. Is Stanford able to do any better? Coming out of turn 2 right now, Nieto is able to block him just for the moment, and Stanford not going to the inside, choosing the outside line into 3 and 4.
Choosing the outside line, that's going to give him that run on Nieto. Now the question is, can San Nieto keep clear? No, he can't. So Eric Stanford now side by side with the 2 car for the race lead, already coming up to about 0.5% of this race being completed. So Stanford fighting that outside line. What can he do here to try to get the lead done? It looks like he will be able to take the race lead away. So new leader, Eric Stanford, taking it around the outside line. San Nieto's going to have to slot back in line here in a minute here, unless he can really try to get a big head of steam from 3 and 4 on the bottom.
Yeah, how long is he going to hold it for? Because San Nieto still has that bottom line for a good defence through 3 and 4. Stanford getting the run once again onto the front straight, and he is going to lead another lap as they go over the line, but they're still absolutely locked together, absolutely side by side. Chambliss just watching on from behind, doesn't really know what to do here. Too early to be making it 3 wide, that's for certain. But finally, around turn 1 and 2 they go. Stanford finally takes control of this race with the runoff of turn 2, and Nieto is happy to just fall in behind for now.
Stanford, I think what Nieto wanted to do there, didn't want to really burn up his tires too much. Of course, tires are going to be oh so crucial in today's race. This is a track where you can really burn them up quickly, though Nieto doesn't really seem to be too concerned about that already. He tried to have a look back at Stanford for the race lead down to the turn number 1. These guys have a limit of 6 tires so far this race, and that is going to be, of course, 5 tires plus the ones they start on. So these drivers only have 5 more tire changes left. They could average that out to about 1 every 40 or so laps here. So I have a feeling here that tire strategy might play in a lot more so than the fuel strategy.
Yeah, it certainly seems to be that way, because the benefit you actually get from being on new tyres is quite massive, really. And so you want to be on new tyres at as much opportunity as you can, really. But with only 6 sets available to you throughout the 200 laps, that's very, very difficult to manage actually throughout the race. So it's very, very difficult, really. It's going to be about 33 laps on average per set of tyres. Obviously, it's not going to average out perfectly like that. However, you're going to want to hold a set of tyres back just in case there is a late race caution, because they could be very, very useful.
We do have such a big field here that obviously we weren't going to be able to keep everybody's favorite driver on screen all the time. So if you want to keep an eye on where your favorite driver is all race long, there is live time available at RaceSpot.TV/timing2. RaceSpot.TV/timing2 if you want to tune in to live timing. Take a look at your favorite driver when they might not be on screen. Of course, with 41 cars, very hard to check in on everybody all at the same time, especially when you've got over half the field still trying to go side by side with each other. As you've noticed, Nieto has retaken the race lead, made a dominant move there on Stanford, who's now side by side with Brian Chambliss. Chambliss, of course, a driver that's right on the bubble so far for those playoff spots. He is on the cusp, and caution is out for the first time today. It is a pile up, a junkyard in turn number 1. Nicholas Mara is involved. Ross Cato is upside down and into the catch fencing. So many cars involved. I'm counting probably a good quarter of the field is caught up in this one.
Loads and loads of cars all over the road down there at turn 1, and it was bound to happen really with the amount of pack racing we're almost seeing at Charlotte at the moment. It was so close, and we were really enjoying it up the front of the field. Fantastic action for us to be watching, but very stressful for all of these drivers and the spotters as well, trying to keep the drivers abreast of everything. We'll try and get a replay for you as to what's actually gone on there, but at least I'll probably say 10 cars involved in that one. A lot of cars involved. Let's try and piece together what happened here. Oh, looked like the 48 turned the 29, I think that is, into the wall. Don't know if the 29 maybe came up into the 48 on the outside line, or whether there was a meeting in the middle, or what went on there. We obviously need other angles to find out really what the cause of that was, but what we do know is that a real amount of cars was caught up in that, and yeah, it's a real shame to see this early on in the race.
This track is just so narrow like that when you get to a position like that, it should completely block. So take another look at this here. It was the 48 car of Jaron Weimester that turned. Chris Rabel to kick all this off, and then everybody behind just has nowhere to go. And when you're in the smoke like that, you cannot see anything. So not only are these drivers kind of stuck with nowhere to go, but they don't even know where to go, because I mean, they don't know there's nowhere to go. For all they know, there could be a gap in the middle and they can't go for it. So you're left just kind of shooting yourself into the dust and hoping for the best. It's so unfortunate for a lot of those drivers that got caught up in early in this one. You got guys like Dominic Howe that are caught up in this. Dominic Howe, a big driver in the RealSimRacing IROC series powered by iRacing. So it's a shame for him. There are a lot of really fast cars that got torn up because of that.
I mean, even if you could see what was going on because of all that smoke, it wouldn't be that useful really, because there's cars everywhere, and we're going to get a fantastic view on board with Sean Casto right now to actually see and kind of explain this in real time. So, even if you could see, and you absolutely cannot see a thing going on, it's great avoidance actually from Sean Casto to just get right down to the bottom, right over the grass as well. Great avoiding driving from the 52 there, but even if you could see where you were going, there are cars going left and right. They're all over the road. They're blocking the road. There's almost nowhere to go. I guess the safest bet really is to just throw it down to the inside and hope for the best.
That onboard shot was just a beautiful angle to really just show you just how little you can see. We'll take a look on board for Gary Saxton, who's currently running 15th at the moment, and this will again be a perfect view. I mean, where are you supposed to go? All he does, he just shoots for the bottom here, and he actually, I think he might have gotten out of this one all in one piece. There is Trudell, just barely squeaked by the 7 car, and he does make it through that clean. A beautiful avoidance there from Gary Sexton. Shot to the bottom side, and saw the gap, and he went for it. That's what you got to do. If you can see a door open, you got to go for it, because otherwise, you're probably not going to get that door open again.
You can't hesitate in those kind of situations. You've just kind of got to be very decisive, very quick thinking on your feet as well, just to get through the incident as quickly as possible. Sometimes it's almost a good thing to aim for the car, because as you're getting there, it's hopefully not going to be there, but that obviously wasn't the case on that occasion. Sexton just slowed it right down as much as you possibly can while turning and on banking at the same time, yeah, he did a fantastic job to just kind of slalom his way through that absolute wreck that was created in front of him. So yeah, it was great, and I bet there's so many onboards that we could spend all night watching onboards of people avoiding stuff, because I bet there were upwards 10-20 drivers maybe who put on fantastic quick thinking of avoiding driving skills on that particular occasion there. That's what you kind of need to do when you see one of those unfolding in front of you. You do have at least a slim chance of getting through one of these at 1.5 miles, unlike Daytona or Talladega, where you really don't have that much of a chance of getting through if it's happening right in front of you. Here you do have somewhat of a chance, but it does take a lot of driving skill, but there was a lot of it on show, fortunately for us, down the back of the field on that occasion.
So after all of that is said and done, and the pit stops have cycled through, the driver to gain the most spots so far is Joe Yates in the 87 car, up 20 positions already. That's a good half the grid, and he's now sitting in 17th place. So Good grief. What a thing we're seeing here from a lot of these drivers. Already got a lot of guys making a lot of progress early on. You got Cody Harris up 13 spots, up with the 16th position as well. Lights are out on the pace car, so we are just about to get things back underway here from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. I think this is a good time right about now to give a shout out here to the guys that helped to keep the lights on here for the Real Sim Racing Cup Series. And of course, it is Sim Seats. And ever since 2009, they have been designing and fabricated some very high quality made in USA driving simulators, including motion sims. You got some complete turnkey Racing packages and a lot of custom fabrication as well. Their customer base includes racers from amateur to pro and just about everybody in between. Of course, everybody on Sim Seats is a weekend racer too, so you know that they have a really big passion for racing, which drives them to build a lot better sim racing equipment. So if you want to join Sim Seats for the thrill of racing at any time, in any car, and on any track, you can start by visiting simseats.com to learn more. They help to keep the lights on here for the Real Sim Racing Sim Seats Cup Series. So you win, coming to the green flag for the second time today. Hopefully, we'll make it longer than just 15 laps this next time around.
Yeah, hopefully we do get a long green flag run in this. Not many of the leaders actually did come in on that occasion, so we're not expecting it to be that long until pit stops happen. 20, 30 laps, maybe 40 laps, it could be longer, but we'll wait and see.
Nieto gets a great launch on the field, goes well before the traditional restart zone, so Nieto is clear by about 4 car lengths there on the rest of the field. And look at all of the drivers starting to get squirrely early on. Nicholas Johnson gets squeezed out by Trey Browning by just the slimmest of margins there, and you can see Johnston falling back like a rock as a result of that loss. So much speed. Down side beside the Black Sweet Splinter, Matt Danson is going to get some help here from Nick Silver to kind of give him a bit of a bump, get himself back into speed, but that means Johnson has lost himself a good 5 spots in just the first half a lap.
He was trying to get through on the 18 car right down the inside into turn 1. Didn't get a great launch, did Browning on that occasion, but he fended off well, but it didn't turn out that well for Johnston, really. He was up inside the top 3 not so long ago, but already into the lower reaches of the top 10 right now. But yeah, it's a little bit more spaced out on this restart. The back of the pack a little bit more further away than the rest of them. That was quite a chop across the nose as well from Andrew Farinas, who goes down the inside into 3 and 4 and gets second place away from Stanford. He's starting to make his march to the front of the field now as well.
Andrew Freenosh, one of those drivers to really watch out for tonight. He's a guy that has won several times here at Charlotte. In fact, he's won twice here at Charlotte in both 2019 and 2018. He is one of the winningest drivers here in the Sim Seats Real Sim Racing Cup Series. He's also a 3-time defending champion, back to back to back. So Freenosh definitely the guy to beat tonight. He even has himself 4 wins so far on this season alone. And he's trying to go for a 5th one here today and a 3rd Charlotte win. So this is a really big night here for Freenosh if he can continue to march his way up to the front and then keep himself there.
Absolutely. The fact that he's got himself locked into the playoffs and he's not playing for points right now is really helping him, because it means he can just go all out in all of these races and just try to win them. So yeah, he's racing with complete freedom at the moment, unlike some of those around him, like Sam Nieto, who's still leading this race. Stanford in 2nd place, he's not locked in. Chambliss not locked in either. Those guys are all playing for points, really, if they want to make themselves into the playoffs. So Freynaz has really got himself a lot of freedom to not quite do what he likes, but certainly he could take a few more risks a little bit later on than some of these guys around him.
A lot of the field is now single filed out, particularly in the top grouping here, and that's of course what you want to see. In long races like this, you're really not going to get too far by, making up these bonsai 3-4 wide passes, really early on in the race, even going to go up a couple positions in just one lap. You got to make sure you really preserve those tires to the end, and I think that's also why we saw a lot of leaders staying out, because they only got 6 sets to work with. So, 6 sets of tires last for about 200 laps. It's a pretty tall order for some, but these guys definitely have the skill to do it.
Absolutely, and I think we're going to see a lot of different tyre strategies going on here tonight with regards to people hoping it will stay green, or some people will be hoping for a late caution, etc. But some people, I reckon, might even pit as early as lap 33 in this race. If 6 sets of tyres in this race, it might work out for some, or maybe lap 40, maybe lap 50, maybe later, as we're seeing 3 wide just in front with this onboard camera right now. Very, very exciting indeed, and 3 wide around here. It is fairly narrow, to be honest. You don't really want to be going 3 wide, especially on lap 24.
Well, and especially, in the quad oval like that, that's one of the worst places to go 3 wide, let alone, see these guys trying to go for those photo finishes. I mean, we've seen it before. it usually does not end terribly well, though, for a couple of the guys involved. So you got Adam de Blasio and Nicholas Johnston trying to do battle up there. They're also trying to battle for the lead, though. You got Sandietto trying to fend off Sean Casto. Casto is going to take the race lead around the outside with a runoff of 4. So Sean Casto becomes the 3rd different driver to lead this race tonight.
That is going to give him an extra point. Let's not forget, you do get 1 point for leading a lap in this race, and you do get 1 point if you lead the most laps. But obviously we'll find out who that will be a little bit later on. Nearly 3 wide again, going into 3 here with the 15 right down the inside. That's McBride trying to make up some positions alongside the 95 of Burke, and there's a bit of a slide for the 21 in front as well. Johnston's going to get down the inside of him, and it's 3 wide again, nearly through the quad over. Very exciting racing going on in the midfield right now. It's a bit of a touch as well between a couple of the cars, the 21 and the 28, just leaning on each other through 1 and 2.
Liam Sheen is having a hard time further in the back. He is blocking all over the place at the moment. He blocked Rhett McBride in his run to try to make it 3 wide down the inside, and now he threw another nasty block on Joseph Tice to try to get a run around the outside line. So Sheen clearly struggling early on here and trying to hold on to whatever position he can do. You blocked it like it's the last lap of the race, though, on lap 27 of 200. Really not the best way to go about it. That's the perfect way to get people mad at you, and really, you increase the chances of yourself getting turned later on in the race so much more. Trying to get a run here on Bradley Burke around that outside line, and he's going to get the run, but it's not going to be nearly enough to clear by the time they get down to turn 3.
Yeah, absolutely. These guys are going to stay locked side by side at the moment in a bit of a train. These 4 cars, you can throw a blanket over them at the moment, and they're catching the cars in front actually as well, because they're battling and things just not calming down in the midfield. Out front it is getting more single file, but this is where the real action is, right in the midfield. And yeah, Sheen now trying to go round the outside of Stanford, who was running up in 2nd place, let's not forget, not so long ago, but he's all the way down to 13th. It just shows you how quickly these races can change.
Oh, big bump there for Bradley Burke. That bump came from Mariusz Leszczynski in the 03 car, who gets by him on the outside line. Gave him a pretty big shot in return number 3. Tried to have a lunge down the inside as well with a run down the back straightaway. So those little touches, that's what's going to end up catching out a lot of these drivers here. We already saw it cause 1 big wreck tonight, and from the way that some of these guys are driving, a second one might not be far behind.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to really keep things clean in this one, unless you want another accident like the last one. And it seems that some of these guys are not taking any prisoners. Certainly, let's have another look at the incident and into turn 3. Bit of a touch on the back from the 03 to the 95. Fortunately, good car handling skills, good car control from the number 95 to be able to carry on in this race at the very least, and if not lose a couple of positions along the way. But yeah, it's very, very intense in the mid-pack, and as we've already seen, if there is one car that goes off here, then likely a lot of cars are going to be collected, so they really do need to be careful.
That they do. So we got a lot of the battles starting to, kind of space up as things go on. We're continuing to keep our eyes on these battles further down in the midfield here. Got these guys battling for the final spots just at the top end of the second half of the field so far. Right on the board, Dylan Jones here. He's got Cody Harris right in front of him. Joe Yates is on his outside line in the 87 car. Yates, I believe, was caught up in that first major incident earlier today. You can see there is Yates getting that big drive on the outside line. Oh, bit of a check up there for Cody Harris and Gary Sexton. Oh, one car on the outside line. Ends up Kaczynski. Oh, no, that's going to create a big wreck as well. 3-4 involved, and car still scrambling to avoid Michael Kaczynski, who somehow managed to keep it by. And at the end of the day, only about 3 or 4 drivers ended up getting involved in this one, but caution number 2's on the night.
Oh dear me, it's a real shame to see, but it looks like we're not quite sure how that car ended up in the fence on the right hand side there, but we do know that it caused a bit of a domino effect really, and unfortunately Dylan Jones getting himself involved in that accident. I'm afraid we'll try and get a replay of that for you in a few moments time, but it looks like there was even more damage than we suspected actually. Let's have a look, see how this one happened. It looked like the Blackish car running a little bit up into the line of the car, ending up in the fence there. Unfortunately Dylan Jones ended up involved, but it looked like some guys further behind getting a lot more damaged out of that one. So yeah, I'm afraid that was not the cleanest battle going on there, just kind of taking the line away really, and it causes accidents like that. It's unfortunate to see.
Looks like it was Trevor Valderrama in the O2 car that might have been the one to send Kaczynski up into the outside wall, and with that little bit of a touch there. And it's like we're on a board with Joe Yakes. He had nowhere to go in this one as well. There you see Valderrama on the inside. Yep, just pushes it up. There goes Kaczynski into the wall, and Yakes once again nowhere to go at all. Yeah, cars shooting the gaps all over the place. Yeah, drivers trying to skirt through around the outside line. Y'all have to let pit stops, though, about to come underway, and this time it looks as though all the leaders are coming in.
Yeah, it seems that is a good call, really. With 33 laps gone, it seems that, you know, you really want to get a new set of tyres on this one at the moment. So literally everybody is into the pit lane. Hardly anybody staying out there on the racetrack at the moment. Is anybody on the lead lap going for this? I think everybody on the lead lap has literally come in. One maybe just ducking out of it a little bit further back, but virtually everybody into the pit lane. So it's going to be very, very, very busy down there. Make sure you don't hit anybody. Make sure you don't speed yourself, because that's a race ruiner as well.
It absolutely is. I mean, we've seen so many times drivers making those small little mistakes on pit road, and it's been extremely costly. Samieto wins the race off pit road, so he retakes the lead from Sean Casto, and in fact, Casto's going to fall down quite a ways. Andrew Freenosh is going to be right up there as well. Liam Sheen looks like he was the lone driver to stay out at the top end of the field. He's going to be out there now. This will be interesting for Liam Sheen. He actually looks like he might have come down once, but decided not to really take any service. So Liam Sheen up there now, top end of the field. It's an interesting call from Liam Sheen to, stay out and not take any service when everybody else did. So I have to see how this will play out for the number one car, especially how aggressively he was driving earlier on.
Well, he was a long way, well, he's pulling to the inside right now, so I wonder if he's going to pit now, but that would be strange. But he was a lot further back when that first caution came out, and when that was all cycling through, there were a couple of guys further back who were pitting in, but he's pitting in again now. I don't know why on earth he wouldn't have come in on the last lap, but because this is when the lapped cars are supposed to be coming in, but he's not really running by that rule book at the moment, so not entirely sure why he decided to stay out there. I thought he would have been able to roll the dice a little bit, really, because there were a couple of guys a little bit further down in the order who were pitting actually under that first caution, and so may have been able to roll the dice a little bit later on, but it seems that that's not actually been the case, and most of these guys have been forced into pit stops, and nobody in the end staying out. This caution came out at a pretty much perfect time.
Update on Liam Sheen. From the sounds of what I've been hearing over the driver's radio, it sounds like Liam Sheen actually missed his pit stall on the first one around. He just couldn't get it turned in, couldn't find the pit stall in the sea of other pit stalls around him. So that would definitely explain it. So he missed his pit stall, had to end up just driving through and coming this time around instead of, stopping it, backing up the pit road, which is obviously a heck of a lot more dangerous. So Liam Sheen taking the safe option now. Good news for him. He still has over 150 laps yet to make up ground. He was making up some pretty good ground earlier on in this one as well. Also good news on the Kyle Trudell front for drivers that are a fan of that number 7 car. He is able to take a wave around now. So Kyle Trudell, after having to start from pit road and being 1 lap down, well, he is going to be back on the lead lap if he doesn't come down pit road this next time by.
Yeah, let's hope that that will be the case. It's a shame to see him so far down, actually, because he does often run very well. So yeah, let's hope that he can get back on the lead lap. And if he were to be able to do that, I believe that would leave 34 cars on the lead lap, quite possibly. That's roughly where we are right now. We lost 3 cars in that first caution, by the way. I think we've lost another couple after that last accident on the last lap. So I believe we are already up to 5 retirements with Ross Cado in 36th at the moment, already 18 laps down, so he's a very, very long way back right now as well. Yeah, car's getting too wide again, but I'm afraid some of these guys won't be getting too wide again, won't be rejoining this race again because of the attrition that we have already seen. It was bound to be an attritional race. It's a long race, and getting to the end of it is difficult, but wasn't quite expecting to see 2 fairly large crashes so early on.
It's just one of those casualties, unfortunately, of, racing with such large field sizes like this. I mean, the larger the grid is, the more chances you have for a much bigger incident like that. It's a very difficult thing to do, so we'll have to really kind of watch this and see how this ends up playing out throughout the course of this race here, see how this goes on. So far, Samieto, once again, back on pole. 2-time winner at this racetrack. Andrew Freenosh is starting beside him in second, so I have to see what Freenosh will be able to make of this. He's trying to go to get his 3rd win here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway at the oval configuration, and his 5th win this season alone. So we'll have to see what your 3-time champion can do here.
Absolutely, he's the only repeat winner, isn't he? And he's got 4, so he's getting greedy, and he wants another one right now. But the pace car's about to pull in, and yeah, we're about to get racing again with many laps still to go. 164 still remaining.
Sam Nieto launches good. Andrew Freenosh was caught napping. Brandon Bowie will go up into the second position with the run on the bottom side off of that restart line. So Freenosh is going to have to settle back for third here. Looks as though Brian Chambers just barely makes enough room for the 88 car to kind of get in there. That checks up to 25 a bit more. Here comes Danson. Danson sliding off the corner. Heads up. Hang on. Great save there from the 0-5. And Jeremy Miller breezes by on the inside as well. You saw him pick up about 3 spots in that one straight away as well. Great wheel work there.
Great save from Matt Danson, but also great avoidance from everybody as well. There was also a car right down below the apron on the left-hand side there as well, avoiding Danson, who was dancing across the road after off the turn 2 there. But a great save from him. He's managed to pick himself up, and look at the professionalism from him right now. Straight back up to speed, straight back to battling with Stanford and Burke as well, who he finds himself with right now. He's dropped to 12, but at least he's still in the race.
He did what he had to do. He kind of backed it off, let himself get the car settled, and then kind of get his head back in the game, get back into the rhythm, and now he's able to start working his way back up to Jeremy Miller and the others. So a very close call there, almost having caution number 3. Did not expect that kind of a savior so early on, but great move from Matt Danson. Take a look on board this and watch the wheel work. You see, just loses it by himself off of 2.
Oh, it's so good for it. And back one way, back the other, and back again. It's fantastic to see from Matt Danson to save there. Just cars checking up in front of him, and that's the kind of thing that can happen off of turn 2. You just lose the car if the rear end is not quite where it needs to be, and there are cars checking up in front of you. It can get very tricky through that section. There's smoke in front of these guys at the moment. Not entirely sure why, if that's an engine blow maybe, or a car spinning off, but car slow on the exit of turn 2 on the apron right now.
Cross Cato, he blew his motor in turn 3 this lap 5, just running all by himself. He had just come out of pit road as well. Car must have overheated, and now that car has died effectively. So Ross Cato at the moment just kind of coasting it through 3 and 4, and you can tell right there, that is not a very happy camper in the number 12 car, and I couldn't blame him. You put in all this work for this massive race, and you end up getting knocked out before the first quarter of it is over. Getting new motor placed in those cars, it's a solid half hour, so Ross Cato is effectively out of this race.
Yeah, he's already 21 laps down, and that's going to be at least another 21 laps for him to replace that engine. So his day is as good as done, really, as the battles continue on. The battle for the lead is also going on at the moment. Brandon Bowie had a go at the leader, and now it's the time of Farinaz to have a go round the outside at 1 and 2. It's 2 wide for first position, 2 wide for third as well. They all pack up together, 4 cars in a row, all going into turn 3. It looks like the 88 has gone to the lead.
Freenosh, the winningest driver so far, trying to go for it here. Can Freenosh get him off of 4? No, I don't think he will. I think Sam Nieto is still going to have a bit more on defense for that 88 car. Of course, all these drivers on fresh rubber, so they have the ability to do battle like this. Of course, how long is this battle going to prevail like this? Because at the moment, Freenosh is definitely showing his dominance on that outside line. So he is going to clear here off of turn number 2. And before Michael O'Reilly can get any ideas, Sam Nieto comes up to cover him.
Yeah, absolutely. Good driving there. Tucked in briefly to get the slipstream, but took back out again just to make sure he protected that inside line going into turn 3, because otherwise he wouldn't really have much of a chance of fending off any of these positions. You just look at these cars all lined up in a row right now. If you get pushed out wide, if you get pushed offline for one of these turns, then you're just going to go back so many places, because there's so many cars waiting to take your space just behind you as side by side for third between Lariah and Bowie again as they go into 3 and 4. It's all packing up with Freenosh actually leading, but doesn't look like he's going to stay there for long. It doesn't look like any car that has got to the lead is going to stay there for long, because Sam Nieto has been right back on them. If he's lost the lead, which has been rare so far, he's led most of these laps, but if he has lost the lead, he hasn't let them have it for long.
It's Brandon Bowie with his move to try to get around Michael O'Reilly for third. That has allowed Sammy.
still Freelance leading. That's some Nieto in second place, all in a line at the moment in the front of the field. And yeah, just 46 laps to go, nearly a quarter of the way through this race. 300 miles, 200 laps on the list, and Freelance is now leading, the only repeat winner so far of this season. And it's all going on behind, isn't it? Side by side, I believe, for 8th place between Johnston and McBride at the moment, as Danson is watching on after saving that car coming out of turn 2 about 10 laps ago. He's starting to work his way through the field again. He was in 12th, he's up to 10th, and he's looking for 9th right now down the inside of McBride, who was pushed out wide by Johnston, getting through into 8th place, and Danson isn't going to say no to that opportunity on the inside line. Going to go for it through 1 and 2, but it's not going to be that easy. McBride is going to try again. Oh no! Tipped into the wall. Danson's involved. Stanford's involved as well. Caution is out for the 3rd time tonight, and there are cars all over the back straight with damaged ones everywhere. Rhett McBride is surely going to be out of the competitive running for this race. Deary me, 3rd caution already, and another load of cars out of this one.
Rhett McBride went for a very wild ride down the back straightaway that last time by. Got the back end kicked up into the air. He was also the driver to start that all off, and he just barely nicked the wall and went down to the mat dancing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to get another look at what happened there, but it was very, very close between all of these guys. This is McBride and Danson going off the corner together, and Danson just gets clipped by that car in behind, the number 5 car, I think it was, and that spins him into, or kind of clips him into McBride, who then is tipped into the wall himself. Let's have a look at some of those cars who were involved. I think it was the 5 anyway. Josh Teese, excuse me, who was involved in that one, and yeah, I believe he was the one who just clipped Danson into McBride, and there was a lot of damage going on at the back straight there. A lot of faking for the pit road on that occasion, but nobody taking.
Caution number 3, and we're just now getting a quarter of the way in. Agno Phillip, what in the world has happened to the 94 car? Jeremy Miller got caught off guard big time, so potential incident coming to the pit road. We'll have to check in just a moment. Here's on board Joseph Tice for the wreck, though. Just another guy that got caught up into there. There is McBride going for a very, very wild ride all the way down. Good grief. So I'm confused what happened to Agno Phillip here, Ewan, because he was going slow and then just ended up pretty much going to a dead stop right before pit entry. Caused a lot of drivers to have to check up to get around him, and then started to gas it as soon as Sean Casto got past him to get into the pit road.
Yeah, I have no idea what was going on there either, really. But we did. What I can tell you, what I do know, is that there have been a fair amount of drivers into the pits. Top 16 didn't go in, but yeah, Agno Phillip, some reason, it's a little bit strange. He's first out of the pit lane as well, so I wonder if that's a bit of a shorter stop or what's going on there. 7-second pit stops for most of these guys, and a little bit longer for some others further back, but a fair amount of these will be for damage, by the way, and some of them will be strategic, but we're already down to 30, 32 maybe runners still in this race. There's been a lot of attrition going on, and we're not even a quarter of the way. Well, we are just about a quarter of the way through the race now, but interesting to see a couple of guys maybe strategically going for a pit stop in this one. No idea what Phillip was doing, but most of these guys just putting on a new set of tyres, and we'll see how they get on the restart, because those around them have about 15 laps on their tyres.
So for the first time tonight, Andrew Freenosh will be the race leader here and the control car when we come around for the restart. So far, it's been Sam Nieto for all 3 restarts. Sam Nieto is going to be started into 3rd position with Brandon Bowie on the outside for the front row. So we'll have to see what the winningest driver here at Charlotte will be able to do here on this restart. Of course, we've seen Sam Nieto. He's a driver that we've consistently been seeing all season long. He loves to get the early jump on these guys. Of course, at tracks like Daytona and Talladega, it's not the wisest thing to do over there, because it just means you're that much more of a sitting duck when the field eventually runs you down. With how much downforce, though, that these cars are able to generate now, though, with the more high downforce packages that have been introduced most lately, it really does make it all the more apparent here that you really can't get that big of a gap at all, because you just don't have anywhere to go then when the field starts to catch up to you again.
Absolutely. I mean, the biggest gap I've seen for the lead of this race was 1 second before that second caution came out, and that's really not a lot. Really, when you think about it, you know, lap around here is a lot longer than that. So yeah, it's just a bit strange, really. Not something we're used to seeing at mile-and-a-half circuits. As you're right, we're used to seeing it places like Daytona, Talladega, where the pack racing is famous, really. Yeah, mile and a half's really not famous for that. It's normally much more about driver skill, a lot of lifting off, a lot of wrestling the car through the corner, but there's a lot less of that now. It means that the pack can stay closer, but unfortunately it does mean that more accidents are likely to happen, and I'm afraid we have seen a bit of that so far tonight. We've still got a few cars on the lead lap. There's still 27 cars on the lead lap, I believe, and still about 32 cars, maybe 31 cars still running in the race.
So far, we've got 27 drivers left on the lead lap. Nicholas Mara just now being able to get back onto the lead lap as a result of the Lucky Dogs, the waiver round procedures that have been going on. 28 drivers only running on track. Everybody else so far down to pit road. So a lot of drivers have found themselves, out of this race early on here, which is really such a shame when you think about it. I mean, you have so many guys here that have been wanting so long to be able to work on this here. There is a new driver coming to the track here. I'm noticing down there coming out of pit road, Matthew Mara coming out for his first lap of the race. He's now 51 laps down, it's worth noting, and he did not even make the start of the race. So Matthew Mara just now coming out to play, electing to maybe come up and see if he can get some points based on attrition.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's probably going to be possible, to be honest, given the amount of attrition that we have seen so far. But it's good to see the guys out there at the moment. It gives us 32 cars running out there. Healthy field still, a lot of competitive cars as well as we're ready to go back green.
About a quarter of the field is out and a quarter of the field is left. By that logic, we'll have about 10 cars left by the time the 200 lap mark rolls around. Andrew Freenosh leads him back to the green, but not nearly as big of a jump that Sam Nieta beginning. So Brandon Bowie slots in the line, and he was already right up the trunk of Andrew Freenosh.
Yes, Sam Nieto also tucks in behind Larrea as well. Silver tucked in, Browning, Johnston, they're all there, but it's a little bit more strung out in the back at the moment, a little bit less side by side until you get to about 20th, 15th, 20th place, and it all starts to shake up. Freenosh getting under pressure from Brandon Bowie already into turn 3. He really wasn't able to lead for very long before the 34 tried to get through. He's not quite going to lead that lap, so he's not quite going to get his point. But he is side by side into turn 1 once again, and it all checks up behind them.
There goes Matt Danson, just coming out of pit road after fixing all the damage caught up in that latest incident so far on the day. Still side by side for the race lead between Bowie and Freenosh. The 88 machine is usually so dominant at tracks like this, especially when he gets himself into a rhythm here, and looks like he has got himself in a rhythm indeed. So once again, Bowie not able to lead a lap. Freenosh takes it away from him once more as they come around to the green flag. Now, of course, you don't have to be in front by the time you get to turn 1. You just need to be in front to win the race halfway down that straightaway.
Yeah, absolutely, and Freenosh would have won it the last 2 times if the race had ended there, but thankfully for us it doesn't, and this battle can continue. They're actually leaving those behind, and we don't actually see that very often. Normally, when this happens, you see a right stack up of cars right behind, but Freenosh now finally taking control around the outside through 3 and 4. That was a fantastic run across the top that time.
Indeed, a great run there for Andrew Freenosh. He will retake the race lead. A couple cars still elected to come out of pit road, and after getting some of the damage fixed, just to kind of come in and once again, trying to get some points based on attrition. I mean, hey, it's not really going to be a waste of your time here if you decide to go out there and run a few more laps, because all it does is make sure that if somebody else crashes out, that's one more free spot for you, even if you're 20 laps down. So you just got to maybe stick with it. Hope that more people tend to crash out here. That's what a lot of those guys, there are 10, 20 laps down to start to think at the moment. Johnston trying to go 3 wide around the outside. The 44 car of Michael Araya backs out from the bottom. Johnston, though, cannot get the run on Trey Browning to make that move work.
Yeah, he's been in the wars today, hasn't he, Johnston, really, in the battles all of the time, which is not the best place to be, really. You want to try and stay out of the battles as much as possible, but it's certainly entertaining for us in the midfield right now. The 44 sent way out wide, way out to the top there. Laraya trying to get the run off of the corner, maybe, for a run at the car in front, or at least a run to hold on to his current position ahead of Chambliss, and it looks like he has been able to do that, so they're going to run single file again into 1 and 2, but he elects to go to the top anyway, deciding that that might actually be faster for him at this stage in the race. Very, very wide, nearly actually got into the fence on the outside on that occasion, but he holds on to what is 7th place at the moment, and just in front of the 25, just behind the 28 as well. It was starting to put a bit of pressure onto Browning for 5th.
Austin down the inside of Browning, trying to punch his ticket into the top 5. The 28 car makes a very easy pass down the inside. Trey Brown, I think, might have backed off of it, kind of let him have that one. Might try to go for the crossover here if he can get a good drive off of turn 2, but he's not going to neutralize the run. Got a bit too close to the wall. Down on the bottom side is Brian Chambliss. Tried to have a look on Michael Araya, but he just made that jerk down to the inside way too quickly, so he ended up losing all the speed he got off of 2.
He was very, very worried about running into the side of Laraya there, and rightly so as well, because if he did, it would have been quite an almighty accident, but he did unfortunately ruin his run onto the back straight as well as they go down into turn 1 and 2 again, side by side. But Laraya really loves it at the top line at the moment. He's making a lot of speed there, at least holding his position very, very well, and of course he gets the slipstream, which Chambliss won't get, and now he can see Jones on the outside line. He got caught up in a little bit of accident earlier on, but look at him flying around the outside at the moment. He's alongside Johnston for 5th almost right now, and flying, absolutely flying for Dylan Jones. He must be on new tyres with the amount of pace that he's got right now. He must have pitted under that last caution.
That he did. Dylan Jones, the only driver up here. He's got 14 lap pressure tires, and everybody else up here. And he's really using those to great effect now. Went from 7th with just 1 lap ago. Now he's up to 2nd place around Brandon Bowie, threatening Freenosh now for the race lead. So this is going to be great stuff here to watch from Dylan Jones. Going to get a great drive over the corner. Freenosh has nothing against him, and Dylan Jones doesn't leave this one by, but he will be able to most certainly get it by the time they come back around.
Look at Washington as well in the 98, excuse me. He will be going through into 2nd place. He's on new tyres as well, and there's so many coming up behind. Silver also on new tyres. Trudell, I believe, is as well. There's so many of these cars actually on new tyres right now, and they're going to be making up real pace, and it's a visible difference in terms of the pace that they have right now. You just can see them running around the top, almost like they're in a different category. It's almost as if everybody else is in Xfinity cars or something, and they're in the Cup cars, running right around the outside of everybody and just leaving them as if they're tied to a post right now. So you can see the tyre difference visibly between these guys, and there's actually a battle still going on between the new tyre runners for the lead. Washington down the inside, looks like he's going to take it from Jones.
David Washington to the point for the first time all day long. He will get that extra point for leading a lap, just like Dylan Jones got 1 lap prior. And Freenosh is still falling back. And look at the gap up there. It's about 6/10 back just from 2nd place to 3rd, which is a mile when it comes to oval racing. It's definitely a very insurmountable gap at the moment, especially when you're on, 15 older lap tires with the cars up in front. It goes to show that the tire play really comes in later on into these runs. I mean, they were about match pace with the leaders on the restart. It's when the tire wear starts to really kick in, about 25, 30 laps in a run for the leaders, when these guys really start to pull away. That's why I was thinking the tire strategy is going to be very big. These guys on a full tank can make it about, the 60, 70, 80 laps, even if they want to really stretch it out that far. The tires, though, realistically, they're only going to last about 40 to 50 laps before it's just better to come on down for fresh rubber.
I think also as well, we saw the battling in the midfield. It's absolutely crazy. It's difficult to get through that all in one go. So once you've got through that main part of the bunch there, you can really start to motor and pick them off one by one, which is a lot easier to do than it is to pick off a group of 5 all at once. It's very, very tricky to pick your way through that kind of gaggle, even if you do have newer tyres. So now that it has all stretched out and it's single filed out, things have got a little bit easier as Burt goes to the outside line now in the 95. He gets past Johnston. He's going to get past Trudell as well in the 7. He might well get Sam Nieto as well into turn 3 and 4.
Bradley Burke in the 95 car trying to work on it, really pinches Trudell down, make sure that he cannot get the run off the corner. Those are 2 drivers on fresh tires, and now Burke is using the other as a picture, trying to make sure that Trudell is not able to get a run on the 2 car and on him in turn through 1 and 2. And he's going to get it done perfectly. So now Bradley Burke is going to have himself a pretty sizable gap to work with back to Trudell. And now he's only got 2 cars separating him and the top 2 as well. He's going to first get around Brandon Bowie here. He's going to sit him behind, wants to take the outside line because that way he does not burn up as much of his tires but he still has so much more speed in them as well. So now we can watch here as Bradley Burke starts to make that push on Brandon Bowie.
Now this is an interesting moment as well here, Nolan, because we've got to lap 67, we're up to 68 now. We've done more laps on this stint than we did for most of these guys on the first stint. It was after 33 laps that they came into the pit lane. I was expecting to see them, at least somebody, coming into the pit lane at some point at the front of the field at this point, but it seems that they want to run it a little bit longer, save their tyres for a little bit later on in this race, because you've only got 6 sets of tyres. If you do 33 laps a stint, or 33, 34 laps, it's going to even out to 6 stints in this race, but cautions may ruin that completely, so you do want to space things out, and it looks like these guys are going to run at least 40 laps on these set of tyres, maybe even more.
You're still battling with Freenage here. Still not quite clear. Just now he gets clear of the 88 car, and here comes Trudell. Big head of steam on the outside line. The 7 car not wanting to wait around, so Bradley Burke is going to have his work cut out for him in the battle for 3rd place here if Trudell gets clear of Freenage soon enough. And sure enough, he does. So you got fresh tire cars running 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now look at that head of steam that Trudell got on Bradley Burke. Nearly ran over the 95 car off of 4.
Yeah, almost pushing him into turn 1 as well. Freenage is not out of the water either, with Bowie on the outside line of him at the moment. It's not quite for the lead anymore, but into the wall! Brandon Bowie into the wall! And Zamiedo and Johnston are going to get down to the inside. Oh, that's a very, very close moment. He did well to not spit himself out across the road, but into the wall. That may well affect him a little bit. Might have to repair a tiny bit of damage. It might be ever so slightly affecting him, but goodness me, that was a very, very heart-in-mouth moment for everybody involved.
Close call, particularly for Sambietto, who was right behind him when all of that went down. So Brandon Bowie didn't manage to get himself in line, and Nicholas Johnson was not able to complete the pass. Bowie managed to get the speed up for 3 and 4 and was able to maintain that 7th place around the outside. So Nicholas Johnson now has got one more car with some very minor right side damage now that he's going to have to work with here to try to get past. He's got to make sure that Bowie does not hold him up too much here, because he's got guys closing in just behind as well. The drivers closing in behind are also starting to do battle, with Trey Brown and Nick Silver now going side by side in the 1.
Yeah, absolutely. They're kind of doing battle with themselves almost, and it is sort of shooting themselves in the foot at times. They do need to kind of work together at some point, but the older tyre runners aren't exactly working together either. Looking at Eric Stanford alongside Chambliss and Lariah, at the moment, who's still on that outside line. He's gripped to it at the moment, won't let go of it, and using it to good effect, actually. 12th position for him at the moment, and he's just consolidating that with de Blasio getting out around the outside into 13th. I believe he's on new tyres as well. Saw him in the pit lane at the end of the last caution, so he could well be running fairly quickly in the 21, but yeah, it's all getting a little bit more spaced out now, a little bit calmer, which is just as well really, because these guys are going to have to come down pit lane before long, and that is very, very tricky to do, especially when you're in a pack like this.
It's always a tricky task to do, trying to figure out when you want to come down pit road, because it's one of those things where, do you want to come in on your own, or do you want to come in with a bit of a partner to help you out there? Typically coming down with a teammate is never really a bad thing to do. Take a look back here at Gary Sexton in the meanwhile. He's currently doing battle for 16th place with Sean Casto.
Yeah, he is at the moment. It's a very damaged car in behind them as well, actually, at the moment, in 18th position. Yeah, that's a good battle between them going on. Outside line for the 52. Going to try and get a run off of turn 4, maybe for an overtake into turn 1, but nothing doing on this occasion. Lap 75 just about to be completed, and over 40 laps now done for these guys. And yeah, maybe there will be a pit stop before long as Johnston and Bowie battle. Now here it is, Browning involved as well, trying to get through on his new tyres, but doesn't really have anywhere to go right now. When your cars are too wide in front of you, it's very, very difficult to get through. That's what we're seeing right now. An absolute blockade in front of him, and he can't go anywhere. We're stuck behind at the moment. Oh, sorry, you're back.
Hey, excellent. I got back just in time. I was going to say, Brandon Bowie's holding up his own teammate here, Trey Browning, for keeping it real just in behind. Now Brown is going to go to the inside of his own teammate there, of Brandon Bowie. So clearly, the two teammates here not quite working together at this stage of the race.
No, not really. Not at this point, but kind of might turn favours or whatever a little bit later on. You never know what's going through the minds of these guys, of course, but Chambliss is going to get down the inside of Bowie as well right now, and they're going to go side by side, blocking Lariah and Silver also in behind. It's too wide for another two cars, but nothing doing once again. The two leaders, by the way, are very, very close together, but this is very, very close indeed in the mid-pack, and very, very exciting indeed. The guys on old tyres continue to run out here, upwards of 40 laps, over 50 laps we're coming towards right now in about 5 or 6 laps time. So yeah, they really are running this a lot longer than they did in the first stint.
This, of course, the longest screenplay running battle is long, and no doubt the field being really split up as a result of all the attrition so far in this race. Definitely kind of helping out to allow this race to go green for longer. We're starting to close in on that first halfway point of the race as well at lap number 100. So we'll have to wait and see here to see how this is going to play on out. Brandon Bowie continues to duke it out with Brian Chambliss, and all of this is allowing Trey Browning and the other drivers to start to pull a further and further gap up in front.
Yeah, they are just a little bit, and it's allowing those behind to catch up as well. De Blasio and Lariah and Stanford are all here. Liv Sheen's going to be here before long as well. You can see him in the background, but they come off of turn 2, still battling in the same way that they were before. Too wide and 2 rows of cars going into turn 3, still battling. The bottom and the top seem to be absolutely level in terms of the grip that they have, in terms of the speed that they can produce. So there really is no easy way of doing this. Just side by side for the lead on the right hand side of your screen.
So on the right hand side, you got Dylan Jones and David Washington trying to do battle for the lead, and Jones is really sticking it right up to the wall, and it gets clear of Washington for the race lead with a brilliant pass on the outside, keeping it right up at the wall, almost right at the oh, he's into the wall for a brief moment there in the 20 car as well. Manages to somehow hold it. Washington does not have anything for him.
No, that he might have been lifted off himself, to be honest, seeing the car in the wall in front of him, but they are now really experimenting with new heights right up next to the wall, Kyle Larson style almost, although not quite that close, but he is fairly close to the wall and got a little bit too close going through turn 3 and 4 on that occasion. Very, very exciting indeed. He's going to have to go to the bottom now to get past one of the lap cars, but slides up in front of it and goes back to the top again, seemingly really, really enjoying that kind of high line throughout this race. And yeah, if it's working for you, then why not, I suppose. But let's just hope that he doesn't shred tyres by doing that, or you know, not missing a trick by going on the inside line. You've got to really be very flexible with your line running around here.
Battle for the lead done and dusted. Let's tune back into this battle here. Lariah had a very close call with Wall there. That really checks up Nick Silver in the 3 car. So Lariah starting to struggle a bit on those tires as well. Actually, I think he might have nicked the wall. Just the smallest of bits there. 44 car started to really struggle with the understeer now, and you can see how much that car started to push off of these corners. It's not a happy sight at the moment for the 44 machine. They're starting to really lose touch up to Brian Chambliss just up in front. De Blasio and Brandon Bowie are also trying to go side by side. De Blasio's trying to kind of diamond up the corner, you know, enter high, exit low to get the maximum amount of speed off these corners.
Yeah, absolutely. It can work for getting a run on the car in front, but not apparently on this occasion. I just see a positional change going on up front. I think Johnston might have got past Sam Nieto, maybe. Not entirely sure, but these battles are still raging on a little bit further down, with the leaders changing again as well. It's hard to know where to look at the moment with the amount of things that are going on. You can see Jones right on the top side still, but Washington now using the inside to just maybe get a shorter way around and a better way around as well by the looks of things. He's so close to the wall though. Look at that from Jones. He's, as you say though, using that lower line on the exit and getting a fantastic run. It is working, but obviously when you get it wrong, the risk is very, very high.
Catching more lap traffic too, Trevin Valderrama, who is significantly off pace in comparison to these guys up here. So eventually Jones is going to have to make the choice as to what line he wants to take. Does he really want to work, you know, fight with David Washington when they're starting to catch more and more lap cars just up the road? He's going to keep that outside for now. Oh, but he puts himself back into the wall. That's going to cost him about another 1/10 of a second.
Well, at least, and yeah, any damage that he's picking up now is going to start to affect him throughout the rest of this race, so you really don't want to be risking it so much at this point with the lap car in front of him right now, keeping him on the bottom just for the moment, which is probably a good thing. See, his car is not bad at all. He's really able to hook that blue line that you can see on the kind of left-hand side of the road there. You can, if your car is able to run that line the entire time, then it's in a good place. But seemingly doesn't want to run there. Would rather go on the outside line. He kisses the wall again, coming through turn 3 and 4. If I was his spotter right now, I'd be telling him to not do that anymore. At least run the middle if you're going to do that, not right up against the wall, because the risk is so high. He's touching the wall almost every time he does it.
Oh, that is a beautiful shot right there. Take a look at that. Just there, scrapes the wall right past the Toyota marker on the outside barrier there. It's a very difficult thing to do to keep it out of the wall, particularly on the 3 and 4. That's where the mid-corner understeer can be really bad, but he is going to try to get this one. He's still going to continue to try to work his way up there. Now, we are approaching halfway here, but we are already halfway just about in terms of time limits as well, because all these races have a 2-hour time limit on them. We've almost been underway for 1 hour now in this event. We're not halfway at the laps yet, thanks to all the cautions that we had in the first 50 laps or so. So it comes to the point where if you get, another couple of cautions here, we're going to have to start being a bit more concerned about if this race is going to finish on time rather on laps. We had that situation already at Dover.
I mean, if any race is going to be due to time rather than laps, I think it's going to be this one, really. The longest race that we have on the calendar this season, 300 miles, which is, a good 50 miles longer than the next longest. So, it's bound to happen at some point. It already has happened this season, and you're right, Dover was shorter than this circuit in terms of this race, in terms of miles. So we could very well be seeing the 2-hour time limit come into play with this one. Let's hope not, though. Let's hope this race runs its course and we see a clean and green race right to the very end. That would be very, very interesting in terms of the strategy. But we're approaching lap 90 now. With these guys who are on older tyres like Fernandez and Johnston, Nieto, etc., they have been running on their tyres now for a good 55 laps or so. Surely at some point they've got to be coming in, because if they pit now, then it's going to be 2 more 55 lap stints to the end of this race if it stays green. So I know that they're trying to avoid green flag stops as much as possible. They want to stay out there really until they catch a caution to pit, really. But is somebody going to roll the dice? Because surely if one person comes down, then everybody's going to be going for it.
Sixth place comes down pit road for green flag pit stops. First driver on the day to do so. So now the question comes, when does everybody else come down to pit? Because Johnson's going to be out there on sometimes up to 34, 50 lap pressure tires than everybody else in the field. So the 20th car comes into his box. Is he going to get stopped? Yes, he does. Very perfect stop there for Nicholas Johnston. Now the question is going to be on everybody else. When do they start to make their stops as well?
Yeah, he's got to be this lap, really. We've seen the benefit of new tyres up front with the front 4 of Washington, Jones, Trudeau, Burke. They've all put new tyres to great use. So surely they've got to realise that Johnston is going to gain a whole heap of time by doing this, and that they've got to get in the pit lane. Guys like Fernandez at the moment, who is still running in 5th position just behind Burke. He's got to get in the pit lane, surely, and there's not even a car behind him to maybe rear-end him as he tries to get into the pit lane. I think he is slowing down now and going in. No, he's not. He's staying out a little bit longer, so I'm not entirely sure why, because, Johnston's going to be gaining a lot of time with the undercut, but, of course, if Fernandez catches a caution here, he's out here with these guys and going well, then he's going to be absolutely laughing about this one. So it's a very, very difficult situation to be in, to know what to do. If this doesn't pay off, if it stays green, then Johnston's going to be leading those who have pitted last on lap 34.
It looks like another driver has elected to come down to pit road. Joe Yates, a lap driver, of course, is going to make the next stop down to the lane. Of course, Yates a bit off cycle with some significant front end damage, completely missing the front end of his machine. So no surprise to him coming down pit road a bit off cycle than everybody else. So just now about 6 laps away or so from that halfway point. Steve Soa is just exiting pit road of the 75 machine. So more and more drivers are now starting to, make these stops here. Dylan Jones still really running the outside line as well, really trying to kind of utilize some of the drive that you can get against the outside wall. And as I believe it was Connor Hematic that has pointed out under each chat as well, he actually did remind me, there is that air bubble that's right up against the outside wall as well. And you can use that to get a lot of extra speed. It's so risky to go up there, though, and he's just tapped the wall a few too many times for it to really, be of any use to him at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to damage your car. That's the main thing, really, isn't it? You just don't want to damage that car, and he's in second place at the moment behind David Washington. I don't know if the damage is affecting him, though. He's actually in a battle with Trudell, who's trying to go past him right now down the inside, and still using that outside line is Jones. But you can see he's just taken it half a car width down, and that's exactly what I'll be advising him to do. Really, take advantage of that higher line, take advantage of the air bubble, the grip that is up there. But don't take it so close to the wall that it's so risky every time you go up there that you think you're going to take some of the side of your car off. So you've got to really play that line. You've got to balance on that knife's edge, and it looks like I would be much more happy with him running where he is right now. He's certainly doing a good job. And speaking of doing a good job, Kyle Trudell, just look at that, 37 places up so far. That's phenomenal from him.
37 places, by far the most out of anybody so far today. The only driver that comes close to that is David Washington, up 32 from where he started so far in this race today. And now Trudell is trying to take the same strategy as Dylan Jones is, run up by the wall, trying to get in that little pocket of air that's right on up there. He's really doing a good job of making sure it doesn't suck him in, though, and he's going to try to make sure that he can now maintain that second position. He's starting to run down race leader David Washington as well.
I think it's also about kind of taking your opponent's line away as well, because if you can run where they are, then obviously they're not going to want to anymore, because they can't get through and they'll experience the dirty air and whatever as well. So there is some of that going on, but Trudell certainly is making that high line work. He's very close, though. You almost flinch every time they go up there because it is just so close. But of course they are very, very skilled, some of the best on iRacing on show here tonight. So we should have I should have more faith in them, really, but they're just running so close that it does make you wince. But it's the risk versus reward that these guys are playing right now, and some of them choosing to go for the slightly riskier strategies, of course.
It absolutely is. I mean, the risk-reward factor in these races really comes into play big time here. So now the question now comes to be, once again for the rest of the leaders, when do you come in? A lot of these guys have now been stretching out for a lot longer than some of the other guys like Nicholas Johnston have been when they came down for their own pit stops. So take a look at Trey Brownie here, the Keeping It Real Esports machine. He's running 6th place at the moment, and he's trying to keep Sandiano behind. He had to let a good portion of the first quarter of the race, but tires caught up to him at the end of it all.
Yeah, I suppose they would have done, yeah, and of course those guys on newer tyres have caught up to him and passed him as well, but you're right, he's lost a good second and a half to Freelance, who's the first of those who is on the same strategy as Nieto. As now into the pit lane comes Browning in the 18, he's trying to get it stopped, just about, he slides it in, just about gets there, but yeah, he's finally been able to get down pit lane. Nieto is going to get another position, but you're right, he has fallen away in the last few laps.
Grant Davis also comes down, and he smoked up the tires big time on entry. 4-tire lockup for him on the way in. So a lot of drivers now are starting to make these calls here to come down pit road. So I was going to say, let's take a little bit of a break here. We'll go over to the field, but I think we should wait here until this pit window cycles itself out. Brandon Bowie makes the next stop to come down to pit road. So we'll take a minute here. I'll let these pit stops kind of cycle themselves out. Maybe check in with that in about the next 10 laps here or so, assuming we don't have a caution before then. Because now these drivers are up against a whole new problem here with this. What do you do when you got these guys on newer tires trying to come up against the guys on fresh tires? Battle on for the race lead as well. Trudell running the Larson line, trying to get on David Washington, and he's clear.
Yeah, he is indeed. A fantastic run off of turn 4 there. It's giving him a comfortable lead by a couple of car lengths, and he's going to try and lap a couple of cars in front of him as well. The 03 is just in front right now, and might be able to put him another lap down here, down into turn 3, but a fantastic move off of turn 4, using that outside line to really get the run off of the corner, use the banking to gain as much speed as possible, get the run, and not only has he got through, but he's absolutely running away from Washington at the moment. Doesn't want to be pitting anytime soon, does Carl Trudell, because he's absolutely flying right now, as opposed to Declan Jones, who's really starting to fall away as Freenaz is in the pit lane as well.
Three-time champion Freenosh comes down to pit road out of the 8th position, so the 88 car starting to make his look down to pit road as well. Cody Harris just leaving his box right behind him. Nick Silver's called that he's been in this time by, along with a big handful of drivers. So more and more cars starting to make these calls now. It's like a situation, monkey see, monkey do. You got one guy that comes down, soon enough, everybody is going to follow.
Yeah, but look at the way Johnston's been able to get miles in front of Freenosh in this one, and how far he was behind. He was a good 3 seconds behind before this pit stop cycle, but now that the champion has come in, everybody else is in. Nieto, de Blasio, Larea, Silver, all in, 4 in a row into their pit boxes, and it's getting very, very busy down on pit road right now. Still a good 7 cars to come into the pit lane, at least from the leaders. Trudell, Washington, Jones and Burke are not going to be in the near future, but certainly some of the others may well be. We'll see how far they can go, really, because if they can stretch this far enough, they might be able to make this on only one more stop, whereas those pitting now definitely going to have to make another one.
About 70 laps or so is the estimated fuel window, so if a couple drivers really do try to make that big of a look for, trying to extend this one out, it'd be opportunistic, I think is the safe word to say. Sabui out of pit road, and it looks as though quite a few drivers are, continuing to just kind of still cycle themselves out and through. You got guys like, Matthew Marr that are kind of way on the bottom, trying to let people through. Sam Nieto just out of pit road with Nick Silver just behind. More drivers starting to come on down, more drivers starting to kind of cycle themselves out as well. So with things looking a bit settled for now, take a quick moment here and we will tune in here for the SimSeats midway race break and take a rundown here through the field. Kyle Trudell, most spots gained of the day, plus 38 from where he started today, is currently leading this race. 3/4 of a second back, David Washington. Dylan Jones and Bradley Burke sit in 3rd and 4th with Sean Casto, Agdal Phillip in 6th and 7th. Thomas George is in 7th place with Nicholas Johnston in 8th. Trey Browning sits in 9th with Brandon Bowie in 10th. Andrew Freenosh is in 11th. Brian Chambliss is in 12th, over a lap down. Liam Sheen is in 13th with Eric Stanford in 14th. Adam de Blasio 15th, Silver 16th. Sam Nieto sits in 17th with Gary Sexton in 18th. Matthew Loraya, Grant Davis round out the top 20 so far in today's 200-lap event. Kyle Kamer is in 21st with Cody Harris 22nd. Steve Soa 23rd. Kevin Valderrama in 24th. Rhett McBride is in 25th with 26th place holding Nicholas Mara. Joe Yates just now coming down pit road in 27th with Mariusz Laczynski in 28th out of the race so far, along with Matt Danson and Matthew Mara. All drivers so far, besides Matthew Mara and Ross Cato, are so far out of the race. Those drivers that are still in pit road and effectively out of this one are Joseph Tice, Jeremy Miller, Dominic Howe, Munatse Major, Steve Durham, Michael Laczynski, Chris Rabel, Jerry Weimaster, Daniel Eberhardt, and Eric de Blasio. So, a lot of drivers still running out here. A lot of drivers, though, a lap down as well. Of course, the timing orders of things are very much split apart. You can see right at 9th place how it suddenly jumps down to just 1.7 seconds behind. That's because that's the last driver on the lead lap there is Trey Browning. That's obviously going to change once the other 9 cars come down pit road.
Yeah, absolutely. We've still got plenty of cycles to kind of come down here, but Johnston is leading of those who have been into the pit lane in the last few moments. He is actually on the lead lap right now, so if a caution were to come out right now, then things would be thrown up right in the air, but he would be safe, and a lot of his rivals may not be, so he's in a pretty good place right now. As Declan Jones comes into the pit lane, I just wonder, with him falling off, whether he's either shredded his tyres running up so far, or maybe he might have even damaged the car. You can see it's a little bit crumpled on the right hand side there. You can see it might be affecting him slightly. I'm not entirely sure if that is enough to be affecting him in any way, but certainly his tyres were going off towards the end. Trudell leading comfortably, and Jones was comfortably falling away as well. It was not a great end to that stint.
More drivers coming down pit road. David Washington comes in, this time by Bradley Burke, right behind with Mariusz Laczynski just in behind these guys as well. So 3 more drivers down to pit road, including David Washington, who is going to make his stop now and hopefully come out still with inside the top 15. It'd be great to see Washington continue to fight up there further up in the field. Bradley Burke in his stall as well, nice and smooth.
Yeah, no reversing back into the pit box, which is what you want to avoid as much as possible in these races. Washington with a 14.7 second pit stop. Burke just 1/10 of a second quicker, but still out behind Washington as things stand. They're going to fall way back at the moment. However, they are going to have slightly newer tyres than a lot of those who are in front of them right now, especially the likes of Johnston, who came in very, very early indeed. There they are. There's Washington coming out of the pit lane right now. Where's he going to filter out? Looks like it's going to be not even inside. Well, it is going to be just inside the top 20 actually. But still, it's a long, long way back, and there's a lot of work for him to do still in this race.
A long way to go as well for a lot of these guys out there. I mean, we've already been at it for, 114 laps, but there's still 87 to go. It just goes to show just how long this race really is. So these guys have still got a whole lot of work ahead of them. They are not nearly out of the woods just yet. Kyle Trudell, I think my eyes are currently on Trudell at the moment, because he, of course, still has to come down pit road. And every lap that he's out there, he's losing more and more time to the cars behind. At this point, he's got about 23 seconds back to Nicholas Johnston, the soonest driver that has come down to pit road. So he is most certainly going to be losing the lead after this one. It's the question now, does he come in now or later? I think I'm with you here on this one here. He might be trying to extend that one out so he can make this a one-stopper on fuel, but the way it's sitting at the moment, it might be a long shot.
Yeah, and also, if the caution comes out, it's completely ruined. It's completely pointless if the caution comes out, because it's all going to be stacked up in his fuel games, and his tyre strategy going to be for absolutely nothing in this one. So it is a risk to take, but when you want to win at one of these races, when you want to get into the playoffs, when just winning this race is a very prestigious race to actually win. So you've got to take the risks, you've got to gamble if you want to, but Trudell looks like he's taking it to the inside right now, defending from some of these cars who are on newer tyres, which suggests to me that he's coming into the pit lane at the end of this lap. Is he going to? Yes, he is. He's going to oh, it's a little bit wayward on the apron, and he just about avoids the pit wall on the right-hand side there, but he does get it into his pit box.
That's the one for Steve Soa, though, who crashed into the right back end of Thomas George, who tried to come down pit road and overshot. So a big, big incident there on the front straightaway, and just like that, Kyle Trudell's pit strategy is ruined. He might have pitted, though, at the exact right time to be able to maintain a top 5 finish. Take a look at this one. This is Dylan Jones here. There is still a slam in the outside wall. Jones got caught in a big way. This all happened with Thomas George. He had called he was coming down the pit road on the back straightaway. Unfortunately, though, he slid wide after clipping the apron in 3 and 4, slid right up into the path of Steve Soa, who just could not avoid him, and that is what kicked off the whole calamity behind him.
I'm afraid that's the second time Jones has been caught up in an incident that wasn't really his fault in this race, I'm afraid. So that is a shame to see. Trudell, you're right though, might have pitted at the absolute right time there. He comes out in 11th place on the lead lap, but with new tyres. Now, Sean Casto, Nicholas Johnston, well, he's got fairly older tyres. Well, he's got newish tyres. We'll wait and see. But yeah, it's very, very interesting to see. This strategy game has been completely turned on its head, because how many people are actually going to pit here? Let's just take another look at this accident, by the way. Yeah, you're right. It's Thomas George trying to get into the pit lane, and he's just gone into the middle of the road. 75 comes in, hits him from behind, and yeah, that was it really. That was the end for a lot of cars slamming to the back there, and not a lot that Declan Jones can do there, I'm afraid.
It's such a shame there for Dylan Jones, who was just caught up right in the middle of things. I mean, there were so many guys that just got caught up in the middle of that. So a lot of drivers now back down to pit road, top it up on fuel, make sure that you can get yourself all nice and sorted. A lot of these guys are guys that are still waiting to come down, or they had already come down about 10 laps prior. So definitely it's going to be an advantage to put everybody back onto the lead lap. So looking up in front, sure enough, thanks to that caution, Kyle Trudell maintains the race lead. How about that for the number 7 car? Plus 37 on the day, and now he is able to maintain his race lead. That caution is what saved Kyle Trudell's race, and in fact his strategy there as well. So with all of this said and done here, I want to kind of give a shout out here, not the Simsies necessarily, but I want a couple of the guys here. They have a bit of a podcast that they have going. It is, of course, the official podcast for the Real Sim Racing League. It's called After the Laps, and of course, it is handled by both Matt and Nicholas Mara. Matt Danson helps to run this one as well as their panelist. You can tune in on that one live on Tuesdays at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All of the podcasts are available anytime at afterthelaps.com or wherever you happen to get these podcasts. Well, I know they also run these on Twitch as well. their guest for this week is, I believe, set to be Brandon Bowie, so that's going to be a very interesting discussion as well. They tend to do, you know, race recaps, all that sort of thing, so you can tune in tomorrow night, Tuesday at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time to, well, listen to this week's episode. They, of course, do a magnificent job, you know, trying to manage this and manage the fact that they can get this going week in, week out. It's such a great thing to see. They do a great job with this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to get a view for some of the guys who've actually been out there as well. It's all well and good us talking about it, but we're not actually out there. We're not feeling how everything is developing, you know, through the car. So it's great to get other actual drivers actually onto the podcast to get a feel for how the races actually went and tell the story a little bit. So yeah, looking forward to that, and looking forward to the end of this race as well. Just 81 laps to go when we cross the line this next time. I can't quite believe the racers, well, not falling into Carl Trudeau's lap. I think that's unfair to say. It's been a fantastic drive from him so far. He's driven really well, strategized very, very well. But that caution has just come at the right time. It's just that little bit of luck that you need to win races, and maybe that'll be the decisive moment and he'll go on to take it from this point. But obviously a lot of work to do from here till the checkered flag.
Now, if my timing is correct on this, we've got ourselves about 45-ish minutes left here before the timer expires. We've still got, you know, it's going to be about 80 laps to go when we take the green flag. So it's a bit of a tall order at this moment for these guys to finish it off. Now, if they have no more cautions and we can run this to the end, they will be able to still make it back with about 5 minutes to go. But that's if they don't have any other cautions so far this race. So it'll be a tough one. It'll certainly be a tight one for sure. At the moment, though, we're still safe on the clock.
Yeah, unless we have, well, I think one more caution might just push us over the edge in terms of actually making this. So we really are hanging in the balance. And with the final 80 laps coming up, with the kind of race coming down to it here, I can't see us going green for the next 80 laps. I know we did get a good run of 65-ish in that one, but you know, we've already had 4 cautions. I'm expecting to see at least 1, probably 2 more, to be honest.
About 3/4 of a mile here before we get things back underway. Lights out on the pace car. So with all of this in mind, kind of resetting things here, got 21 cars now on the lead lap, about another 4 from there still running on the track. So we've got nearly half the field now that has been wiped out from various incidents so far in this race, which is unfortunately what you don't want to see. Among those, Dylan Jones, the driver who was looking so good to finish high at this one, unfortunately just got caught up with something in the middle of the pit cycle. So how will this race play out? A shock winner up there as the control car. Kyle Trudell in the number 7 car is going to be our control car, holding up the field here, waiting for the green flag.
Carl Trudeau holds the lead, but behind it is 3 wide with these guys absolutely crazy in the middle. Freelance is in the middle of a 3 wide coming off of turn 4 at the moment. Brandon Bowie on the inside. It's very, very close on the inside line as well as they go through the dogleg and around the outside for Johnston, trying to get through on a couple of the guys in front. It's Burke in front right now, and a car in the wall as well. Bit of avoidance had to go on there, but very, very intense just behind the leader. Carl Trudeau has absolutely run away with this, but the pack of cars from Burke all the way down to, well, everybody else really. It's so close between them all.
Trey Brownie with one heck of a moment off of turn number 4. Made a little bit of door-to-door contact maybe with David Washington, so it's all starting to kick off here in the second half here of the Sim Seats 300. Washington trying to get the run here on Trey Brownie. What can he do here? Trey Brownie has been doing a great job trying to fend him off just behind. Washington is going to continue to hold the outside line. Let's Brandon Bowie get down the inside, and now Nicholas Johnston trying to push up in front of Bradley Burke. The 95 car, though, has the nose in there. He's going to try to make that run for second. All of this is allowing Kyle Trudeau to slowly pull a gap.
Yeah, he's got half a second at the moment, which is a fair amount considering the gaps we've seen so far today. Browning trying to get involved as well. There's a big check-up and there's a big accident as well. Many cars involved once more, and there's another caution out there on the circuit. So many cars involved.
Now 6 total in this one for caution number, I believe this will be 5 on the day. And all of that one started, I believe it happened right up in front of this one with Trey Browning. They may have had a little bit of contact with Bradley Burke, not sure, and pushed wide off the apron or what happened. But Browning slammed the outside wall. He slid down and collected Liam Sheen, Nick Silver, and Sean Castro, who had skirted inside, trying to avoid it with nowhere to go. Same situation for Sam Nieto. Now the question is about the time limit. Does this push us over that crucial limit?
I think it will do. I think it may well do. Let's have a look at the time remaining. It can't be very long at this point. About 40 minutes, maybe. Maybe less than that now. But yeah, it's. Let's have a look at that replay. 18 got into the wall, and with that checkup, you just can't slow down quickly enough. Really, was tipped into a spin eventually, and I'm afraid a good 5 cars caught up in that one. It's another one of those fairly large accidents. We've seen an awful lot of those tonight, I'm afraid. It's a shame to see, but bound to happen with the way these guys have been racing so far.
David Washington makes a very late call to come down pit road in this one for the 98 car, so he's trying to go on a different strategy here, potentially get himself up there to a position where he can make it to the end of this race and not have to stop again. So you can go about this distance here from here to the end on 1 tank of fuel, and I think that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to set himself up and get himself some fresh rubber while he can, and then not stop from here to the end of the race, providing that this goes green. At this point, I think we're going to be racing the clock more so than racing the laps. We've still got 75 laps to go, and we've got, I believe, just under 40 minutes remaining. I mean, surely there's no way that we could potentially get ourselves another 75 laps into that short amount of time. I mean, at the end of the day, you really never know. I mean, anything can happen in that span of time. I think there might still be a very small chance, but with every lap we set men on the caution here, it fades away.
Yeah, I think the chances of us completing the full 300 miles are fading away a little bit here tonight, but I think that's a very, very smart call actually from Washington, and now that I'm thinking about it, I'm kind of surprised that Moore didn't go for it themselves actually. He might have been forced on by a little bit of damage or whatever, I don't think so, but you know, there's always that chance. No, I think that was a very, very smart call from Washington, really, because 75 laps is not too much of a stretch to make it on fuel anyway, but also, considering that the time may well shorten this race, that's a very, very good call. If this goes green to the end, and it's not quite run to its full length, then, you know, Washington's going to be pretty much the only one out there who can actually make it on the lead lap, and that would give him a pretty comfortable victory in this one. So, yeah, he's got a long way to go, of course, and things need to go his way in terms of no more cautions actually out there at the moment, but, you know, you never know. It's worth rolling the dice.
It's time now for these big strategies to start to come out more and more into play here, so it's only going to be an interesting one here to see how this is going to go. And sure enough, word was just given from race control, weather is approaching, keep an eye on the clock, so a potential quote-unquote rain ending to this race if things continue to play out the way they are here at the moment. So I have to kind of keep our eyes on here, see how this is going to go here for tonight. You know, while we're on the caution here, let's give one more shout out here to SimSeats, the guys that, you know, helped keep the lights on here at the Real Sim Racing Cup Series. They design and fabricate some very high quality motion simulators, turnkey iRacing packages, and custom fabrication for their driving simulators. The customer base includes all racers from the amateurs to the pros, and well, just about every single person in between. Their passion for racing drives them to build better sim racing equipment day in, day out. So join SimSeats for the thrill of racing at any time, any track, and in any car by visiting simseats.com to learn more. If you are just tuning in to us, welcome to the SimSeats 300 here for the SimSeats Real Sim Racing Cup Series here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. It has been an interesting one, I think is a safe way to say. If you don't see your favorite driver on the screen and they are still out on the track, you can tune in to some live timing at RaceSpot.TV/timing2. That's RaceSpot.TV/timing2 to catch up on your favorite drivers if we're not talking about them at the moment on screen. Lights on, the pace car out this time by, yes, we're going green in 1 lap.
Yep, we are indeed, and things are really going to be on now. The heat is really going to be turned up. 72 laps to go when we go back racing. Still one more pit stop for most of these guys, apart from Washington, who I believe will be able to make it. Everybody else, I'm pretty sure, are going to have to make a pit stop unless there is an amazing amount of cautions, in which things may be a little bit different. But I don't think these guys are going to be limited in terms of their tyres. I think they're on their third or fourth set right now. Still got a good couple of sets, maybe even 3 sets to go. So there is plenty of fresh tyres available to these guys if they want them for a late race caution. But as you mentioned a little bit earlier on here, they've got to keep their eye on the clock, because it's starting to tick down. It's starting to run out. And yeah, we're really not that far away from time elapsing here at the SimCity 300, so it's not going to be a 300, I'm afraid. We're not going to get the 300 miles in. However, we are going to get 2 hours of racing in, 2 hours of great racing, but how many laps are there going to be? Nobody really knows.
The lights are now on over Charlotte Motor Speedway as we start to go racing deep into the nighttime here. Currently sitting at about 8 o'clock, close to 8:30 here in sim time here on the track. So, well, as the track starts to cool, we'll have to see how that also plays here into the conclusion of this race. Kyle Trudell, the control car, almost spins the tires. He gets not actually a good launch at all. Nicholas Johnson is going to be pressuring him big time on the outside line. Trudell not able to get near as big of a launch this time as he did last time by. Brandon Bowie is clear for third. They're side by side, though, for the race lead.
Just about. Johnston not really able to get the run he needs to keep his car alongside, although Trudell gives him the space anyway. And Brandon Bowie trying to get involved as well. Does he take it 3 wide? Is now the chance? Not quite for Brandon Bowie. Looked to the inside at turn 3, but didn't take the opportunity.
Trudell is able to fend him off for the race here for now, but Nicholas Johnson has a big head of steam trying to fight the outside line. Bowie gives a bit of a tap there to Trudell, trying to give him a bit of a boost down in the turn number 1. Got to watch for Friedosh as well. He's trying to throw his hat into the ring. Bowie comes up with a chop off the 88 car, nearly puts him into the wall as well.
Deary me, big slide for Carl Trudell on the bottom there, and he nearly caused a massive check-up for Brandon Bowie, who did a good job to actually get himself out of that situation as Friedosh gets himself around the outside, right in behind Carl Trudell. Over the line they go once again. He's really making up places right now. Johnston defending well, but Brandon Bowie and Andrew Friedosh right round the outside of Trudell, who's really getting his ears boxed at the moment and going backwards.
No prisoners being taken on the racetrack at the moment. It is crunch time now here in this race. These guys don't know if there's going to be another caution like that, so it's at a case now where make up these spots now. You're probably not going to be able to later on. Bowie now trying to gun for the race lead around the number 28 machine of Nicholas Johnston. And he did manage to lead the last lap, last of by, but just 11 thousandths of a second. Now guns it down for 1, and he's clear.
Just about is, and Friedosh is now on the outside of Johnston as well, as the cars are weaving and sliding all the way out of turn 2 at the moment. It is 5 for the lead, with Stanford getting down the inside of Carl Trudell as well. De Blasio's not too far behind either, so Bowie is out front at the moment by a car length. Friedosh gets him to second place. Johnston third ahead of Trudell, but these positions are all bound to change in the next few moments.
The 34 car holds the inside for now. Going to wash up in front of the 88 of Friedosh. Friedosh has a big head of steam. He's going to look to the inside and try to go for the racing down to the inside. We haven't often seen the 88 car make these passes on the inside line. He is very much for the outside group for this one, but with the 34 car Bowie firmly holding them off, he really doesn't have another choice but to go down low.
No, absolutely. It's really the decision has been made for him, and that's what he's going to have to do if he wants to take the lead of this race. It's all single filed out in the top 6 at the moment, so calming down just for the next couple of moments, but you can be sure it's all going to kick off, and it has kicked off in the background. Sexton and George, I think, have got into contact. I think everybody stayed pointing in the right direction, and I think we are going to stay green.
Yeah, Gary Sexton was the one that slammed the outside wall. He bounced off of Michael Araya from the looks of it. Managed to save it, though. No caution. We do keep it green. It was a very close one, in particular for the likes of, I believe it was Trevor Valderrama that just barely got around him. There you see the contact that really shoves 30 car hard into the wall.
Yeah, he just got caught on the car on the inside there, and flew into the outside wall. A lot of damage for that car, you can be sure, and yeah, it's going to be a fair amount of time in the pit lane. A lot of laps lost as well, I'm afraid, for Gary Sexton, who is in the pit lane right now. But the leaders still 1 and 2, running nose to tail, but side by side between Johnston and Trudell behind.
Eric Stanford is just behind these guys as well, so the 19 car also trying to throw his hat into the ring, moving up further inside the top 5. So the 19 car down to the bottom side of Trudell, who at the moment, despite trying to go up and catch up that air bubble on the top line, it's not going to happen. There's just not enough grip up there anymore as the track started to cool drastically down to just 83 degrees Fahrenheit compared to the 78 degrees Fahrenheit in the air at the moment. So these guys are starting to really struggle here when it comes to track temperatures. And now you can see, after realizing the top line is not going to work for him, Trudell starts to really pinch de Blasio down to the inside.
Yeah, it's getting aggressive now, getting down towards the end, and he can't really afford to take any prisoners now. Trudell round the outside, back to where he likes it, right at the top next to the wall, and trying to get the run off of these corners. Slipstream as well, and he will continue on in 5th place. Stanford's put in a fantastic performance, by the way. Started this race right up towards the front, was battling for the lead in the early laps, fell back to outside of the top 15 at one point. He was having an awful time of it. He's back up inside of the top 5 now and fighting for a win.
Stanford himself has had a bit of an up and down day so far all throughout this race. I mean, he's kind of gone backwards, he's gone forwards. At the moment, he's certainly moving forwards, about a threat to Nicholas Johnston for the final podium position out there today. At the moment, though, for the lead, you got 2 guys that are definitely really going to be looking hard here to try to, find these precious wins they can get here. Now, both of these drivers are already into the playoffs on just wins alone. I mean, Freenouch, of course, has 4 wins on the season. You got Brandon Bowie, who's got 1 win so far this season. So these guys, at this point, they're just trying to extend the gap they have to the guys just outside the top 16.
Yeah, absolutely, but everybody else in this group don't have wins so far. Johnston, Stanford, de Blasio, Trudell, Washington, all without wins so far this season. As we're looking at a replay of Cody Harris getting down on the outside line at the moment. Gets touched, though, by one of the cars. A good save again, though. And we stay green again. A couple of near misses in this green flag run, actually, but we've stayed green so far.
That was Kyle Kamer, I think it was, that got into Cody Harris and shoved him up the track. Great save from Harris to make sure that car was all set and settled down there on the exit of turn 2. Nick Silver falls back, just letting the field through on the inside line. So good on Harris, or good on Silver, excuse me, making sure there's not going to be any problems. Sean Casto does the same. 60 laps remaining and estimated just under 30 minutes. So we're right on the cusp of what we'll be able to do here on the time. These guys cannot have another caution. One more caution, we will most certainly be ending it on the clock. It's just a matter of time now. Does the caution come out? Does the white flag come first?
Yeah, exactly. We've had a couple of near misses so far, as we've already seen with Sexton and Harris into the wall. Well, Harris was a big save, Sexton into the wall, but nobody spinning around the full 360, nobody causing a caution in this one, as some slower lap cars coming out there at the moment, even though there are only 29 cars out there on the road right now. There is still a fair amount of traffic for these guys to contend with, as we're looking at Grant Davis, another one of those drivers who has made real strides in this race, real up forwards as well. We've barely talked about him all day, but now we're getting down towards the end. He's stayed out of trouble. He's got himself inside of the top 10. It's going to be a big big haul of points, excuse me, for him today.
Grant Davis is one of those drivers that, kind of tends to work his way up, but he does so in a very quiet manner. He's up 21 spots so far in this race, so he's had himself a very good day as well all the way around. I mean, Grant Davis, he's had about as good of a day as you can get. A day that's nice and quiet, but you're still just working your way up lap after lap, being nice and patient, working your way up into these top spots. And he's trying to work his way a little bit more. He's also trying to fend off Brian Chambliss just behind, though. Of course, Chambliss at the moment in the number 25 car in the 10th position, trying to see if he can get back by him for the 9th position out there on the racetrack as well. So you got all these various battles starting to pick up as well throughout this one. I mean, you got these battles up here in the front as well. You got Nicholas Johnston now really trying to pressure Brandon Bowie for the race lead too.
Yeah, absolutely. The pressure worked on Freenouch. He was able to get into second place, but how quickly he's able to get into first. So a little bit behind. De Blasio got in front of Stanford on that occasion, but now closer than ever. Nicholas Johnston outside line into turn 1. Is he going to be able to get the run through here or not? Bowie's been very, very good on the bottom so far, but it looks like Johnston's finally getting a run.
Johnston with a big head of steam around the outside line off of turn 2. Cannot get clear, though, down to the 3. Bowie still has the line. So the 34 car for keeping it real, going to keep it down to the outside line in his 34 Toyota Camry. Trying to really squeeze up the 28 machine up into the quad oval. Just barely pulls ahead. And Nicholas Johnston, contact is made for the lead. And somehow Johnston hangs on.
Somehow they both hang on. That could have been a monumental accident, but they've just about kept it from each other. They lean on each other again, into the door again. And these two now starting to get a little bit touchy with each other. Around the outside for Johnston again on the high line. Is Bowie going to be able to hold on the bottom once again, or is it finally going to go to the 28? It's a little bit cleaner this time, but they're still absolutely side by side.
Brandon Bowie is working very hard on defense here, just about going as hard as he possibly can, trying to keep Johnston behind him. It's worth noting as well that even with the win here, Nicholas Johnston is still not going to be eligible to get into the playoffs. He's only got 3 race starts so far this season, so even if he starts all the rest, he'd probably only start, 13 races or so at the most, and you got to start at least 15 races in the season, so he does not have a shot here at getting into these playoffs, even with the win. He's just in it for the glory, and he does manage to finally get clear of Brandon Bowie. It was a bit of a hairy moment, though, trying to find a way by him.
Yeah, absolutely was. It was very, very hairy indeed. We've seen pit stops in the background, by the way. That might be a sign of things to come in the next few laps, because let's not forget, pit stops were kicked off by Johnston not so long ago. Around lap 90, he came in. That was a good 60 laps ago now, but his tyres are not falling off compared to those around him whatsoever. Where is Washington in all of this? He pitted under the last caution, let's not forget. He is into 5th place right now, and I believe might not even have to make another stop in this race. It's going to be very close.
It was Davis and Burke, the 2 drivers that came down to take pit stops from the lead lap. They're going to be on fresh rubber here. They've got a lot of way to work up as well. So if they end up, coming down, if the caution was on now, they're going to be pretty much stuck a lap down, which would just be an absolute race killer for both of them. Look at Nicholas Johnston, though. Now that he's clear, he's starting to pull a big gap, 0.4 of a second already over Brandon Bowie. Bowie in turn about 3 more tenths up on Andrew Freenosh. You got De Blasio trying to close in for the podium just behind as well. So the 28 car, he's starting to pull that gap, and that's exactly at the moment what that Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 wants to do. Just run away with the lead to prevent anybody from getting up close behind him.
Yeah, showing fantastic pace at the moment. I mentioned that he's pitted earliest of all of these guys. His tyres will be the oldest right now, but he's not showing any signs of that so far. So, yeah, very, very impressive pace from Johnston at the moment. But we do sometimes see this accordion effect. It does all concertina up together, and we can see Freenosh, De Blasio, Washington all in a train right now. It looks like they're about to collect Bowie, and they're about to be in a fight, and they may all come back to Johnston in a few moments' time. We're seeing a lot of pack racing so far here tonight. Very, very exciting indeed, but it does mean that the leader doesn't often get a very big margin. I mean, this is one of the biggest margins we've seen all night, really, and, it's only half a second.
It's going to show just how competitive this series is, and I mean, they're trying to also, show how competitive this race has been so far. Is, of course, David Washington up 28 spots on the day, and now trying to make it 29 as he once again tries to throw his way past Adam De Blasio, who was up 5 himself as well. So, I mean, De Blasio's been having a decent race all so far, but definitely not nearly as good as David Washington's has currently been in the 98 car. And, of course, pit strategy with Kyle Trudell has definitely helped De Blasio and, Washington and Trudell to get up to where they are today. They had that pit stop. They were trying to go long. Trudell came in at exactly the right point to put himself where he is at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's much better than where he would have been had he just followed everybody else and done the same thing as everybody else on the strategy there. So 6th place is certainly going to be a good result for him. He's comfortably inside the top 16 as well right now if he wants to be in the playoffs, which he can be sure that he will want to be in. So, yeah, things going quite well for Carl Trudell at the moment, and, yeah, the battle's continuing on just in front of him. It's Washington versus De Blasio. Nose to tail at the moment we're watching right now with under 50 laps to go.
36 laps remaining. About 20 minutes left on the clock as well. So little so far in this race. The 19 car also comes down the pit road. That is Eric Stanford, who is trying to make his run down here. Coming out of the top 10. Trying to get himself on fresh rubber, maybe see if he can get an extra burst of speed towards the end. Kyle Kamer is also down the pit road. Kamer, you remember, the driver that just had Cody Harris about 10-15 laps ago in turns 1 and 2 to give us another scare there that would have put us that much closer to finishing on the time here.
Yeah, it looks like we really are going to be finishing on time here at the moment, but we still don't know how many laps we're going to have because of the time-constrained race. That doesn't give you an exact number of laps either. Which isn't really very useful for some of these guys when they're planning their fuel strategy. Are they going to be able to make it or not? As Trudell and Washington battle going through 3 and 4 now. It calls it Trudell right up towards the outside line. Looks like Washington is into the pit lane along with Freenos. Wasn't expecting that from the number 98, but he is into the pit lane. If that's the case, then surely everybody is going to have to come into the pit lane. It just depends how much fuel you have to take and who's going to take it. Well, everybody's going to take tyres, but still, when are you going to pit? Johnston's been out there right now for nearly 70 laps. Surely he can't be far away.
It's all about the tire strategy. It's like I've been saying at the top of the race. I mean, you can do it on, 70, 80 laps of fuel, but you're realistically not going to be very fast at doing so. You're going to end up being so slow by the end, you're going to find yourself being more of a hazard instead. So now we've seen that Kyle Trudell is one driver to try to stretch it out until that tank is empty. Is he going to take a similar strategy in this one? I don't think that honestly be a very wise move. You're going to end up just getting swarmed by cars on fresher tires than you, and you might end up losing the lead at the end of the day anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and especially with Trudell battling for points out here, though, I don't see any point in him taking any major risks, and a lot of these guys are going to be in the same boat. But now an interesting part of the race does come up now because the new tyre runners are out there, and sometimes lap down cars getting in the way. Well, not getting in the way, but they're just trying to get through on their new tyres, and it just gets quite tricky. You do tend to lose a fair amount of time in the end of this one. So yeah, it's getting a little bit complicated for all of these guys at the moment. But yeah, we'll wait and see if any of these guys come to blows. Let's hope not. But just over 40 laps to go right now. How much further can these guys take it? De Blasio now into the pit lane from the leaders.
See on the left side of the screen as well, the last time a lot of these guys came down pit road. So far for the top 4, lap 118 was the call for the last time by. So de Blasio comes in. He only pitted just about 1 lap ago. So this is an interesting call for de Blasio. I think he might have just picked himself up. Something wrong there. Maybe coming down for a stop. Looks like he is coming down for a stop. Coming in this time by. That's why it's showing up that 158 was his latest stop there so far on the night. So not sure when the last weekend by was. It wouldn't surprise me though if it ended up being around 118 right with the others. So Nicholas Johnston now comes into pit road as well with Kyle Trudell just behind. Everybody is coming in with coming up to 40 laps to go.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't know who's going to win this one, but we're a lot closer to finding out at this point, and it is very, very exciting right now as well. Let's not forget, Davis and Burke pitted very, very early in this one. They pitted first, and they're actually out in front of the likes of Stanford and Freenos at the moment, so they could be quids in here and right up towards the front. Davis looks like he's taken the net race lead because he's in front of Johnston at the moment, who just leaves his pit box and out of the pit lane right now. So Davis has put in a fantastic performance there. It looks like Burke and Freenos have both got through, so has Stanford as well. So this order has been completely shuffled by that pit stop cycle.
A lot of drivers starting to get a little bit more kind of shuffled out, and there you can see it as well. Only 7 cars now on the lead lap. Davis is the last one. You got Mara, George, Phillip, Harris, Chambliss, and Bowie so far, all on the lead lap. Now, I wonder if these guys up at the front here are kind of banking on a caution here to kind of give themselves some buffer room to work with some of the faster guys just behind. But we'll have to wait and see here because, of course, you got the race leader out there, Brandon Bowie. He's just now being passed up by Eric Stanford, who's in 8th place, the first car lap down. The second car in line, that's Andrew Freenos, and right behind him, Bradley Burke is coming up with a big head of steam as well. So those are 3 more cars down there that are going to be back on the lead lap with fresh rubber.
Yeah, just look at that fresh rubber as well, right round the outside and cutting down the inside of the next car as well. It's really like a hot knife through butter at the moment. Freenos on the back of Stanford as well in a battle for what is 8th place at the moment. It's going to turn into a battle for 2nd place between those two, and I believe they're both going to be catching Davis here because they pitted a little bit later. So The tyres really having been, they just shred themselves around here. It really is very, very hard on the tyres, which means excellent news for us because the strategy is fascinating. The differences between the different tyre lives and how good they are at the stages of their life is very, very striking, actually. And it does make things very, very exciting for us indeed. That's why we're seeing a situation that we have right now. A lot of guys who haven't won yet this year in a fantastic situation to win, like Grant Davis, who you wouldn't expect it to won at the start of this race, but Freenar's now trying to do everything he can to deny him down the inside for what will be second place. Stanford demoted to ninth on the road right now.
Eric Stanford is demoted to 9th. Meanwhile, in the battle just behind these guys, Bradley Burke was just demoted down to 11th place as Washington puts himself up into the top 10. That battle was completed while they were getting by current race leader Brandon Bowie. At this point, if Brandon Bowie realistically wanted to be kind of staying up and out there, you would really want to find yourself kind of focusing a little bit more on trying to, focus on coming down pit lane now. And Brandon Bowie at this point has to come down pit road soon, or he's going to get tapped by Adam de Blasio if he's not terribly careful here. So Brandon Bowie not being done a whole lot of favors here.
Yeah, Davis got very easily passed there by Freenage and Stanford there. So Freenage now out in what will be the net race lead unless anybody can make it to the end of this race on fuel. Is it going to come down to fuel mileage? Are these guys going to be able to make it? Because they did come in a little bit later than some of the guys up the front of the field. So, it's a real chase on right now, and there's battles going on up and down the field as well. Hard to know where to look, but Bradley Burke can only look in his mirrors right now. He's getting overtaken by everybody.
It's always a nervous thing here at the moment when you're kind of trying to focus up on this here. So, there you see it, left side of the screen. 12 minutes, 50 seconds remaining. We are going to be finishing this one up on time. Nowhere near enough time to make this one through to the end of this race. Just 24 laps remaining here on the docket here. An estimated 24 laps remaining. That's at least what the timing screens are starting to project here. That's if we manage to make it through to the end of the race. So with all the happiness remaining, this is going to be a time race now.
It really is, and it's going to be pretty tight as well. Throughout the field. It remains to be seen whether those top six can make it on fuel. Mara's about to be overtaken, so is George, by the way, who are both out there at the moment. Freenage is going to get through on both of those. And yeah, I think it's really a race between Brandon Bowie and Andrew Freenage at the moment. Both of these guys have won so far this season, but surely if they weren't able to make it to the end on fuel, they wouldn't be staying out this long. So they've risked it, and now he's got a 20-second margin with just under 12 minutes to go to try and hold on to this lead.
I mean, at the moment, Brandon Bowie's been only been out there, well, he actually has been out there for 50 laps now. So if he's got 21 laps remaining, he can make it on fuel just barely. It's really going to depend, though, how fast is Freenage going to be in trying to get back around him. That's going to be a very critical point here for a lot of these drivers. You can see the Hornets Test cars that Kyle Trudell is trying to work with. He's going to go around the outside here of David Washington trying to pick up a spot. They just got by the 24 car of Grant Davis as well. So what can Trudell do here? He's trying to work himself up, maybe finish in the top 10 here. He still has a little ways to go up there, though. That is a battle for 10th as well, just up the road from these guys.
Yeah, it is indeed, and there are a lot of slower cars on older tyres coming back towards them again. It's going to get very, very interesting indeed. Mara is one of them. The yellow car you just saw, the number 32, going through your screen, and there goes Kyle Trudell right to the outside of him. He gets through. De Blasio on the back of Johnston, who was leading not so long ago, but a later pit stop has really put paid to his chances. He's chasing down Freenage, so these tyres are just all over the place at the moment, and the newer tyres coming back to the fore. The older tyres falling away. It's so exciting at the moment. Very, very hard to know where to look, and very hard to know what was the right strategy. I guess we'll know at the end, but it's very, very hard to call right now. Is still leading though, 2.7 seconds to Chambliss, who is just behind. Harris just under 10 seconds behind Freenage now into 5th place, not so far behind Agnew Phillip. who is in fourth in the 94 car at the moment. We're watching the number 28 of Nicholas Johnston, though. He's on the back of Stanford now. So he's looking to make his way up the order into 6th position down the inside. Freenaz gets past another position. Philip is now in the rearview mirror as Johnston down the inside of Stanford into 3, and that is 6th place to him. De Blasio follows him through as well.
So with Johnston now clear of out of de Blasio's not got to worry about Eric Stanford here in that 19 car. And Stanford is going to have a bit of a fight up here as well. So he's going to try to really work his way up there, trying to get past the 21 car. That is what Nicholas Johnston wants to see. He wants to see these guys start a battle in front, because that gives Johnston just a little bit more breathing room to work with. Under 10 minutes remaining in what is going to be now a 2-hour event here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Yeah, I initially wrote off Nicholas Johnston and de Blasio a little bit earlier on, actually, but now they're really starting to come with a head of steam, and they may well get through on Freenaz here. We'll wait and see, but Philip is now in the rearview mirror. It's the top 5 for the number 28 at the moment, and as you mentioned earlier on, this isn't going to qualify him for the playoffs, because you do need to compete in 15 of the races, and there are only 10 races to go, including this one. He's only done 3 so far in the first half of the season, so he's just going for race wins. He may well be successful in this, but it's going to be a big chase, and for the moment it remains to be seen whether anyone can even get near Brandon Bowie. So it's exceptionally difficult to call, but Freenaz is being caught by Johnston while catching those in front. It's a very strange situation to be in.
Checking in briefly on the race leader, Brandon Bowie, 2.7 seconds back towards Brian Chambliss down there in the 2nd position, who's on 8-lap pressure tires. Cody Harris, also on 50-lap old tires, is about another 7 seconds up the road. Andrew Freenaz, 15.5 seconds back and still closing, but closing is definitely a bit of a relative term. It's not as much as it was at the start of the race, but you got to remember, he still is on almost 40-lap pressure tires than Brandon Bowie is, so no doubt Freenaz is still not quite out of the fight here in this race. Brandon Bowie really just has to hang on here as much as he can.
Yeah, absolutely. There's not much more that he can do at this point. Just drive as hard as possible for the last 7 minutes or so, and the race will take care of itself. If he wins, then he does, and if he doesn't, then he won't, because there's not a lot more that he can do at this point. Just hit your marks, don't do anything wrong yourself, don't give the win away to somebody else, because this race can only really be taken away from Brandon Bowie at this point, because, you know, it's not like when or if Freenaz gets to him, he's not going to be able to defend with the amount of tyre left that he has actually left. So, you know, it can only really be taken away from him in that respect. He's got to force everybody else to make them win this race. You know, he can't lose it himself. So, yeah, he's just got to hit his marks and do what he needs to do, and try not to let as many lap cars through either, because that will hold him up. He's lost a little bit of time there. 2 seconds is now the gap to Chambliss, as Freenaz is being caught by Johnston. That's gap, it's half a second between those two now.
And that is for 4th and 5th out there on the track. So you still got all these battles within the top 5 here, and in fact the top 10 that have yet to be decided, and so little time to decide these battles as well. I mean, if you look at the lap counters left, I mean, we got an estimated, 12, 13 laps maybe left to go in this race, with just 6 minutes now on the clock, and these guys are still trying to run down the race leaders as well. The gap is down to 13 seconds between Freenaz and Bowie, so it certainly is not yet over. For Brandon Bowie, it's not also a question of tire life, it's also a question on fuel. Remember, fuel window is estimated between 70 and 80 laps or so. He's going to be right in the middle of that worry window when we get to the end of this race. An estimated 11 laps remaining. He's been out there 62 laps already. He's going to be out there for about another 63 laps. He's going to be out there for 73 laps total by the time this race ends, which is right in the danger zone.
Yeah, it definitely is. He needs to be lifting off a couple of times. He needs to make sure that he is going to make this one on fuel. 10 seconds between him and Freenaz. 5 minutes remaining. What's that, about a second a lap, maybe? Yeah, about a second a lap, and I don't think that gap's coming down quickly enough, to be honest. I don't really think Freenaz is making enough of an inroad, and especially if Johnston gets there, starts applying the pressure, these two are going to start to fight. They're not going to be quite as quick as they once were, so this is playing into the hands more and more of Brewy in front.
5 minutes to go. At this point in time, a caution would most certainly take us towards the last lap, if not end the race under yellow flags as well. So at this point in time, a caution is the very last thing that all of these drivers want, especially for the likes of Bowie, who the last thing he needs, if it ends up being a one last sprint, is to have everybody on fresh rubber right up on his rear end like that. Now, speaking of drivers up on the rear end, Andrew Freenosh under some massive pressure now from Nicholas Johnson is making sure that he gets a nice eyeful of that Camaro right behind.
Yeah, it looks like they're catching up to Harris just in the next few moments as well, by the way. So we're about to have a big battle going on for third position as Trudeau gets past de Blasio in the background. There's battles going on all up and down this field, but this is really where it's at for the win. They're taking enough time out of Brandon Bowie at the moment to just about get there as he goes for it into turn one. Johnston trying to get past Freenosh.
Couldn't get it though. Freenosh did a good job of pinching him in, forced Johnson to back out to avoid wrecking them both. Johnson was starting to push up the track, and the 28 car took the wise move there and backed off. All these guys, well, they're starting to reel in Cody Harris as well, because look at Harris, who's just up the road there, who is also on older tires, should note. Cody Harris is about to be caught by Freenosh as well. And now look at Brandon Bowie, just a quarter second back. That's Chambliss in the back.
He's slow. Brewy is slow at the moment, and Chambliss is going to get through here. He's going to get through down the inside into turn 3. So the 25 takes the lead. Are there fuel worries down there for the 34? It does seem that way. He's slow at the moment, not going too badly through the corners, but really not pushing it on the straights at all. These guys are so fuel limited at the moment that might spell danger for them. That might be the end of them. But it looks like Harris has now been demoted. Freenosh and Johnston are now battling over third place.
You were correct. It was a fuel issue for Brandon Bowie. He's now starting to clutch and coast every corner all the way through turn 3 and all the way through turn 1 as well. So it's definitely a big problem now for Brandon Bowie, who's starting to coast. You can hear how low the revs are. Right there, gets back on the throttle. So Brandon Bowie is under some serious worries now for fuel. He's starting to drop back like a rock. At this point, Bowie's just trying to survive here in this one. And look at this. Now only 4 seconds between Freenosh and Bowie. The gap is continuing to close. Freenosh can even catch Chambliss potentially if he can make the run here close enough. But Johnson is not making it easy for him. The 28 car once again going for third place. But Freenosh still holding him off.
Yeah, just for the moment, Johnston's only really been able to get his front fender up towards the rear end of the 88 there, really, but nothing more than that. Only the wheel alongside, maybe, but he needs a little bit more than that if he wants to get through here. And if he does, then he needs to be decisive. He needs to get through in one smooth move, really, because otherwise they're going to completely ruin both of their chances of actually winning this race. So, yeah, they're running nose to tail at the moment, but he needs to be a little bit more decisive if he still wants to get through on Freenosh and actually win this race as well.
I don't think it's going to happen here, to be completely frank with you. I mean, these guys have got under 2 minutes remaining. You got an estimated 2.5 laps to go, so unless these guys can make up like 2 seconds a lap, it's not going to happen. Brian Chambliss has got all the time in the world. There's Brandon Bowie and Freenosh, and Johnston sweep right through.
Yeah, absolutely no arguments about that, because Brandon Bowie is completely out of this one at this point. He's not going to be taking his second race win of the season. However, Brian Chambliss might be taking his first win. He came into the day 16th position in the points. He was right on that cutoff line in a big battle for points. It looks like he might be able to take the victory here as long as he can make it on fuel.
Just has to make it on the fuel. So Brian Chambliss, with 1 minute remaining, it's still all up in the air. 4 seconds separated to him. Freenosh and Johnson will not be able to catch him in time between these two.
Sorry, they're closing very, very quickly right now. 3.5 seconds. It was 6 not so long ago. Just how good is Chambliss on fuel at the moment? I think this next lap might well be the last one, but can he make it?
It will indeed be the final lap of the race. 30 seconds remaining. Brian Chambliss, 1.5 more miles to go. Rhett McBride is going to sweep through around the outside to try to get 1 lap back on Brian Chambliss, the race leader. 3.2 seconds, down to 3 seconds. Freenosh is still trying to close in just behind the 88 car. 2.9 now. It still is not going to be close enough unless something really drastic happens to Brian Chambliss. Not going to happen at all. Career start number 93 for Brian Chambliss. He has not gone to win so far, but in 93 starts, 3 seasons, Brian Chambliss finally gets the win in the win column. He wins the SimCity 300 here from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. What a win for Brian Chambliss. Gambled on going along, and it paid off in the end.
What a fantastic drive that was. Great driving, great strategy as well to be able to get himself into that position. And he just about holds off the Chargers as well by about 3 seconds. What a deserving first career victory as well. Fantastic to see another driver with their first career victory. We had one last weekend. It was Matt Denson's first career victory last weekend at COTA. And we've got Chambliss with his first as well this weekend. What a fantastic drive that was, and what a place to do it at as well, the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
And there you see Brandon Bowie, who had ran out of fuel as they took the white flag. He finishes 14th place. Bowie just then managed to finish it off as, well, Brian Chambliss, a very well-deserved win, going to burn it down on the front straightaway at America's Home for Racing. Let's take a look now at the official post-race results here for the Charlotte Motor Speedway. So Brian Chambliss takes victory, a very well-deserved win indeed from Chambliss. Andrew Freenach 2.8 seconds back in the second position with Nicholas Johnston rounding out the podium. Kyle Trudell and Cody Harris finished off the top 5 with Michael Araya, Adam de Blasio, Eric Stanford, David Washington, and Agnell Phillip rounding out the top 10.
In the next 10, Bradley Burke, 20 seconds adrift in the end, 11th place for him. Grant Davis was in 12th. Both of those guys took risks that didn't pay off. Cameron was in 30th ahead of Brandon Bowie as well, 14th. And off of the lead lap, Thomas George and Nicholas Mara were both off, I'm afraid. Gary Sexton as well after that incident. Valderrama in 18th position. Rhett McBride after that accident we saw about halfway in the race was 19th ahead of Sean Casto, rounding out the top 20.
In the 21st position, Nick Silver 4 laps down. Liam Sheen 22nd place, 10 laps down. At this point, we're getting the drivers that did not finish the race for the likes of Steve Silla and Mariusz Leszczynski for the Extreme Performance Motorsports 03. Sam Nieto was doing so good in the early running, and unfortunately, various issues saw him DNF from the race, 22 laps down. Matthew Mara is in 26th place with Trey Browning, Dylan Jones, Ross Cato, and Joe Yates from 26th to 30th.
Yeah, I'm afraid outside of the top 30, it is a tale of woe for a lot of these guys. Matt Danson, Joseph Teese as well, Jeremy Miller, all out of the race. Dominic Howe, Muntassi Major, Steve Duran, Michael Kuczynski, Darren Reinmeister, Chris Rabil, Daniel Eberhardt, and also rounding off the grid in 41st, Eric de Blasio, all out of the race. I'm afraid all of those guys for crashing from a good long time ago, a very, very long time ago. It feels like an age ago in this race almost.
Feels like it was an age away indeed. What a race we had today. I mean, just absolutely unbelievable, you know, what we were seeing over the course of the day. So we are going to get ourselves a couple of driver interviews here in just a few moments time here. So well, give us 1 second here. We'll get ourselves quickly switched on over, and we'll be right back with you in just about 10 seconds or so time here. And just like that, back and ready for to give a bit of a chit chat here to some of the drivers out there on the racetrack. We're going to bring up first off, we're going to start things off here with Brian Chambliss, the man who got it done. Brian Chambliss, 93 career starts. You get your first career win at one of the toughest races of the season for the SimCity 300. No doubt you are feeling very good after this race.
Oh, you have no idea. I'm over here shaking. That's it's been a long time coming. I should have had one last year. Circumstances dictated otherwise, but I just can't get over how happy I am about this one here. Longest race of the season. I think it's one of the longest ones RSR's ever done, and to be able to pull this off, it's incredible. And, you know, beat a guy on, you know, strategy like Andrew that's nuts.
And speaking of strategy, why don't we talk about the strategy a little bit in this race? I mean, absolutely insane. I mean, so many drivers decided to go short. You know, you had guys like Andrew Freenach that decided to pitch short, and then there was only, at the end, 4 drivers that decided to stay out. And you were the only one that managed to come out on top. In fact, Brandon Bowie, the driver you were battling with, ran out of fuel on the last lap of the race. So what was it like for you to kind of take that strategy? Because, I mean, once you went for it, you had to commit to it. There was no backing out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I sort of got lucky, but not really. I mean, I pit under that lost caution just for fuel because I was looking at it. I was like, if I pit here, there's a possibility I can make it all the way. And then someone piped up in chat and was like, rain's coming. I don't know if we're going to be able to get it. And then I knew, I was like, as long as I just go, I'll be all right, you know, and stay as close to the leaders as possible. Because early on, I mean, you know, I felt I had the speed, but I popped the wall once. I knew that if I could just stay close enough to them, that whenever they pit, that likely I was going to be the only one that would be able to make it. And it really surprised me when David Washington pit too, because he pit the same time as me, but I saw him short pit. I don't know if fuel calculator was telling him something different or I was doing a little better. I don't know, but I can't, you know, I just can't believe, you know, that came out that way.
Well, so with all of this in mind, that win, of course, basically secures your running so far for the playoff spot. You got yourself locked in on the win. You're good on the starts. You're good on the positioning. So what do you think that's going to look like for the championship hopes going forward? I mean, you got some tough competition to compete with the likes of Andrew Freenush, but you've proven that you can beat them.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if I've proven I got the win here. I mean, there's a little bit of strategy involved there, and it just happened to be I was in a position to where I was already in the back and just decided to pit to make sure I was good on fuel. But man, it's good to be locked in. I was expecting to miss, you know, another race or two the rest of the season, so it was going to be a struggle for me to, you know, make the top 16. And like you said, with the competition that's in this league, and that has just increased over the past couple of years, and it's just unbelievable. I don't really have, I wish I could put it in better words, but I'm just, I'm still shaking. The adrenaline's flowing still. And I just don't know, I don't know how this happened, but I'm glad it happened. And I'm glad to be in the chase. So hopefully it'll, you know, transfer on and we can move a little further than the chase than we did last year. And hopefully, you know, we can be there at the end. You never know what could happen.
Well, a well-deserved win then all the way around for you, Brian. So before I let you go here, is there anybody you'd like to shout out for your Herringbone Racing number 25?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Evan and the guys for putting this thing on. You guys at RaceSpot TV for, you know, broadcasting this stuff. You guys are top-notch. I'd like to go ahead and give a shout-out to, you know, a league that I own. It's Outsider Racing League. If you're looking for a league that's just like this, we run on Saturday, so there's no competition there. So I hope Revan don't mind me plugging it, but I'm going to do it anyways. We race on Saturdays, 10 p.m. And then, you know, I want to thank my family for letting me do this. Let me cut out here on Memorial Day to do this. And as a service member myself, I understand the importance of today, and want to, you know, remember all those guys that have, you know, gone before me, my brothers and sisters that have lost their lives in combat. And, you know, today is about them. So I just want to make sure that I give all the glory to those guys, and then thanks God. So other than that, that's it, man. I appreciate it, and be in the playoffs.
Well, thank you for the time coming out to join us here tonight, Brian. Congratulations on a very well-deserved win, and best of luck going forward.
Thanks, appreciate it.
That was race winner Brian Chambliss coming home in the number 25 machine. We're going to continue to move things on down the order now to the second spot on the podium. Andrew Freenush comes in home just barely in second place, 2.8 seconds back. Ewan, you're standing by with our second place finisher.
I am indeed Andrew Freenush, second place at the end of all of that one. Just a couple of seconds adrift in the end. Just missed out on your fifth race victory of the season. What were you thinking, though, as you saw Chambliss just in front there? Did you think that he could make it? What was your kind of reading of the situation when all the pit stops shook out in the final run there?
Yeah, they're just we kind of knew we were up against the clock, which, you know, I hate to say it, but it's a bad way to race when you're racing the clock. So I really didn't know when the checker was going to come out, how many laps. I thought we were going to get one extra, because when we crossed the line, I think must have been 40, 50 seconds in the session. So when the white came out, I kind of knew that he was in good shape. He could probably coast it from there. So me and Nick was having a heck of a battle there. You know, I can't take anything away from Brian, though. A great win. He played the strategy and he did it right, and, you know, there's nothing to take away. A great drive by him. So yeah, a little disappointed with second, but you know, it's a podium, and we'll take it.
Yeah, what was the racing like to be from the driver's seat from the Charlotte Motor Speedway tonight? I mean, it was very, very close from where we were sat. We were thoroughly enjoying it. It was fantastic battling all night. But what was it like to actually drive in? How difficult was it to overtake? And what were these packs like that were just forming after restarts for 20, 30 laps?
Yeah, if I've done interviews out here, and I'll keep trashing it. I don't like this package at all. It's so aero tight and just aero dependent. You get behind somebody, you can't really go anywhere. The first 5-10 laps, you know, you kind of pass, and then from there you kind of just were where you were, and it was extremely hard to pass. 3 and 4, I know we had a wind that was pushing up the hill, and you really felt that after 10 laps, and it was just kind of, you know, you tight, and then you get close to somebody, you get aero tight, so it was just building tight, and like I said, once you got past that 10 lap mark, it was kind of just follow the guy in front of you and hope you save your tires good enough to run him back down and pass him.
Yeah, it was a little bit difficult at times, I suppose. I mean, one final thing before we let you go. What's the rest of the regular season hold for you now? There's 9 races still to go, but you're locked into the playoffs already. You've got 4 race wins easily. I mean, somebody's going to do very well to catch you up in that respect. So, what's your plan from here on to the start of the playoffs?
Yeah, I still take pride in trying to win the regular season championship. I know it has no meaning, but that's something I want to do. So just keep knocking out these top 5s. I know we have a ton of road courses coming, so a lot of wins to probably Matt Danson, as I'll call him out again for that. So I'm not looking forward to the road courses. You know, I don't know why NASCAR put so many in. This is NASCAR, not IndyCar, so 2 was too much for me, but I might be biased in that. So just try to get our road course program in line. I know there's one in the Chase. We're going to try to do better there, and yeah, just have fun at the ovals, try to clinch up the regular season championship and go into the playoffs, and hope we can make a run in there.
Yeah, hopefully we hope to see it. Certainly. One more thing before we let you go. Any people you'd like to shout out quickly before you leave us?
Yeah, big thanks to you guys for the broadcast. Do a great job. Always love listening to it at work on Tuesday while I'm doing stuff. Just big shout out to Evan, everything he does with this league. All the drivers had a fun race. Had a lot of fun racing everybody. All the fans, I hope we put on a good show. That was fuel mileage. That must have been fun to watch. And big thank you to the sponsor on this car, the Sim Racing film. Everybody go check it out on social media. They're making a movie about sim racing. It's coming out this year on Amazon, so everybody go check that out. And a big shout out to them for putting the first ever real sponsor on this car.
All right, we thank you very much and congratulate you finally on second place today. Thanks for talking to us.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a good week.
There we go, Andrew. Sorry, Andrew Freenage. Sorry, excuse me. Second place after at the Charlotte Motor Speedway tonight here, Nolan.
And that leaves just one more driver to give us a chat here tonight. We're going to bring up Nicholas Johnson to come give us a little bit of a chit-chat here now in the commentator's box. Nicholas, it was a bit of an up-and-down day for you. You kind of fell back, you worked your way up, though, and still managed to finish up on the podium. So overall, a good, successful day for you, all things considered.
Yeah, Nolan, it wasn't too bad of a night at all. The Associated Camaro was handling really great tonight. Early on, we had to save some tires and kind of make sure we were going to be good at the end of the runs, and cautions were falling like just at the time where my tires were making a difference. So we kind of work our way back up there. But having Connor Tebby and David Calb on the box tonight, they did a really great job. That really long run we had, we decided we were just going to split the race up into 55 lap runs. And I ended up pitting like 15 laps earlier than most other cars there. And it worked out, got us a ton of track position. And then we had the guys look at the radar and saw that was coming. And unfortunately, we just didn't have the fuel to do it. So we had to kind of make the choice of just go like hell and see what happens. And unfortunately, it wasn't quite enough. Congratulations to the 25 for what those guys did. That was impressive to run that far on fuel. But sometimes this is what it is. We'll take the top 3 and head on to the next one.
Kind of looking back here at some of the challenges throughout this race, it very much is an endurance race whenever we come here. It's the longest race on the season, 300 miles. Well, not quite 300 miles tonight. We fell short by about 15, 20 laps or so. But, all things considered, it's a very tiring race. So what kind of helps you to kind of work your way through the very long races here and manage to come out as well as you do?
It's just really getting into a rhythm. If we can get those long green flag runs and get into a rhythm, you're just kind of like burning the laps away. What it really starts to get to is when we have those short stints like we had at the beginning where, there's a lot going on and you have to be really aware and use a lot of your mental capacity there. Once you kind of spread out and get into that longer run, you can kind of like almost just fall into where you're doing it subconsciously and not much mental is being used.
We look up further forward into the season, and of course, next week up, coming up, is going to be the Sonoma racetrack. Now, that is a very interesting road course. It's incredibly hard to pass. It's a difficult track to drive as well, a whole other beast than the Charlotte Motor Speedway here. You ended up with a top 5 finish in the last road course outing at the Circuit of the Americas. So when we come around to Sonoma, do you reckon you can maybe finish a little bit higher than 5th as well?
I certainly hope so. I'm definitely more comfortable around Sonoma than I would be around Coda, considering the elevation change there's a lot, and knowing that track and knowing where to position your car during the more critical areas of the track is really important. So hopefully we can come out of there with a good finish. It's just like every week, it's about keeping the tires on it. So we can keep the tires on it and have good pit stops will definitely be a factor there.
And then we're going to let you go here, Nicholas. Anybody like to shout out for that number 28 Chevrolet?
Once again, just David Cobb and Connor Tabby helped me out there during the race. Those guys do a good job. Hopefully one day we'll see David in the league. He's on the waiting list. I'm not sure how far down, but he'll eventually be out there with us, I'm sure. You guys for doing the broadcast, you guys do a great job. I always watch after the race and check it out. Thank you very much for that. RSR for putting on this series, and yeah, thanks everyone. We'll try again next week.
Thank you for coming out and giving us a chat here tonight. Nicholas, congratulations on a podium finish today, and hopefully we can get to talk to you again in 1 week's time at Sonoma. That was the 28 car, third place runner, Nicholas Johnston, to finish it out on the podium. And well, that is going to do it for driver interviews here tonight. Looking forward in this season. Next week up, June 7th, comes Sonoma. And then, of course, the All-Star race on June 14th. Bound to be an entertaining race then as well. So, as we continue to look forward into the season here, Ewan, what do you think we can look forward to? Because I would say there's a good lot to look forward to here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's still a load of different circuits coming up. Another couple of road courses in the form of Sonoma, at Watkins Glen. We've got Super Speedway at Daytona, some 1.5 miles as well, Atlanta, Michigan, etc. So, and Road America, another road course. There really are quite a lot this season. So yeah, lots to look forward to. The All-Star race in a couple of weeks' time as well. But yeah, make sure you tune in for Sonoma next week. Should be a good race as well as we continue on with the regular season. 9 races to go now in the regular season before we start the playoffs in early September.
Bound to be a very entertaining rest of the season indeed as we continue to get things closer for the playoffs. Well, that's going to be all the time we're going to have here for another presentation of the SimSeats Real Sim Racing Cup Series. Thank you everybody for taking the time to join us here tonight. I'm Manola Rempel with Ewan O'Leary joining me in the commentary box today, with Hugo Louise behind the cameras doing an excellent job as always for tonight's presentation. Thank you for joining us for more Monday Night action on RaceSpot TV. We will see you all in 1 week's time.